Welcome in. Hi, hi, hi. I'm dressed up all fancy tonight. Hey, Agnostic, welcome in. There we are. Hey, Grovis. I think we're all set up. This one little swoosh of hair keeps giving me problems. It is what it is. I have so much hair, one little swoosh is gonna get away. That's just how it goes. Sometimes you got an escaped swoosh. Thank you, Noah's Lions. I'm glad you're here. I'm gonna wait till a few more people get in here, but I'm excited to talk about the thing. I have a couple of cool things to talk about this stream. Like, for example, we've named the goat, so we'll talk about that once we got more people in here, so. Hey, Boogie. Hey, Jamnik. You thought the prompt said God equals you're not real? Yeah, if you believe in God, you're not real. Sorry. But hello, hello! How are we doing? You just sewed yourself a bra that says Satan's favorite? That is incredible. Hi, everyone! I took a bunch of time to put goop on my face because it's a special day. I only put goop on my face on special days. And Joshua's birthday. Does that mean you popped into existence about 2 years ago? Yes, it does. Happy second birthday. Thank you, Ghost. I'm still getting acquainted with how to work face goop. Not something I'm super comfortable with, so we're working on it. We are working on it. I don't usually fill my brows in this much, so. But how are we doing? We've got tonight, your God equals not real. So we'll see if that brings some people into chat tonight. A new costume every stream? Do you know how exhausting that would be? I tried just doing that for Ramsass and it wore me out. I mean, I love the suggestion in theory, but just trying to do a different themed outfit for every Ramsass took it out of me. So. Nice necklace, thank you. My grandma gave it to me. She insists on buying me like jewelry, even though I don't really wear jewelry. But she's like, oh, I'll get you earrings, I'll get you a necklace, I'll get you a ring. It's like, I don't usually wear any of it. I wear like usually a rotation of 2 or 3 necklaces, and this one's not usually on it. So this is the first time I've worn this since she gave it to me. I usually wear the necklace that I made out of my grandfather's valedictorian pin, and I usually wear like a little silver necklace with a little cat charm on it. That's about it. Jamnik, I encourage a bukkake joke. That's why I said face scoop. Hey Matt, how's it going? You think it's made out of teeth? Rawr. Don't know why I made that sound. Hey, welcome in.
Hello.
Oh, real quick,
so,
can I get what you want to be called?
Yeah. You could just call me Soren.
Okay. And you above 18?
Yeah, I'm 19 years old.
And what pronouns? Okay. What pronouns should we use for you?
He, him, or if you don't want to use gendered pronouns, I don't care. Just don't call me she, her.
That's fine. Can you stop driving?
I'm not driving. I'm in an Uber.
Okay. It's very loud. Just making sure.
I can do in between dialogue, so like when you're talking on mute.
Okay.
If that makes it easier.
Sure. So what is your religion or lack thereof, Soren?
I just minimally think that there's good reasons to believe in bare theism, which is just that there is an agential, like, I guess, ground of reality. So, for the purpose of the conversation, I don't want to commit myself to any particular doctrinal or creedal, religion, since I think that the discussion is just whether or not God is real, right? Not whether or not I'm a Muslim or a Judaist or Catholic or whatever, right?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily against specific religions, but if you're not talking about some sort of being as a god, I'm not sure what conversation there is to be had.
Well, no, it is a being. It would be essentially. I can give you the reasons to believe in agential ground, which would just be a ground that which is an agent, or at least analogous to an agent. It doesn't have to be an agent in the sense that me and you are agents, and rational in the sense that me and you are rational, but it's just like that. So it'd be like analogical. It wouldn't necessarily be something that which is predicated of it in essence, but it would be something that which it is like. And then it would be like the ground of like metaphysics or something along those lines is what I'd want to argue for. And I think there's good reasons to believe it, which I can give you. That this
Yeah.
thing would.
What
Okay,
does your Uber driver think?
I don't know. I haven't said much
Ask
to
them
him.
if they believe in God.
Why?
I
Seems
think it's funny.
irrelevant. But do you want the reasons?
Well, so far you're kind of just giving me a very vague notion of there being some sort of agent that grounds things. I don't see why we would need an agent to ground things.
Well, yeah. I'm not claiming that there's like a necessity there, but okay, so now you want the reasons. Okay, cool. So, I'll give you the flowery language, and then I'll just explain the flowery language, which is essentially
Just use the explicatory language. Why do you feel the need to
okay.
use
Well, it's
unnecessarily verbose language?
okay. It's just easier. It's more efficient, but I could just do the whole unpacking then. So
It's
essentially,
it's less
there are
efficient if you have
things.
to go back and explain yourself again.
No, because then I can get the whole. But it's fine, whatever. We don't want to. I don't want to discuss the meta. You want me to just go over it? I'll just go over it. All right. So essentially, there are things that which cannot exist, right? And the structures that which determine these things that cannot exist. So, like for example, a square circle is not something that which can have any type of like real existence. And that which determines this having real slash not real existence, insofar as we cannot refer to this thing as existing, would be conceptual
Word
ground,
salad,
right?
nobody is following. Word salad, it's
Is
just
that you? What is that?
annoying.
What is
Word
what?
salad is not scrumptious like you think. Your word salad, it totally stinks. Good dude, bop, modern dee da da dilly dee da ba scully dee ba ba oh dee doo do
It's like a bit that you do to prevent linear conversations. I don't understand.
Is what a bit?
What's the point? What's the point of being like rude when we're trying to have a linear conversation here?
What's the point of saying linear conversation?
Well, we're trying to have a constructive dialogue, right? That's just a linear conversation.
I don't think you are. I think you're just trying to make yourself sound like you're educated on something by using unnecessarily flowery language to describe things that ultimately don't make any sense
that was
whatsoever.
the simple language, but what do you need explanation of? Like, what did you need an explanation of?
Well, yeah, it seems like you're basically just saying all this to say, okay, because some things do and don't exist, the things that do exist
No,
have to be grounded
that
in
was
something.
immediately a
Was essentially what you were
misunderstanding.
saying.
No, that was a complete misunderstanding.
You said because there are
I
some
was,
things that cannot exist was the beginning
yeah,
of
that's
it.
very different than do not, right? There's things that do not exist that can exist, but things
Well, they
that
cannot exist
exist
and they also
not.
do not exist, correct?
Yes, but you're saying I was just saying they do not exist, which would be a superset of things that cannot exist. So
Sure,
it's not the same.
I'm sorry I fucked up your superset, SK. Go on.
Okay, anyways, so all I was saying is that essentially there are things that which cannot exist. The reason that these things cannot exist is a conceptual restriction on existence, which would be like something cannot omit contrary qualities in the same respect at the same time.
How
right?
does
Like
one
a thing being a
omit
square
qualities?
sorry, not omit, emit.
Emit.
Sorry,
Okay, how does one
yeah.
emit qualities?
It's just essentially possessing the quality. So if you subsist in the quality or inhere the
So
quality
you could have
adheres
just
to
said they can't have the qualities?
Sure, it's the same. If you understand why, I don't know. Okay, anyways, They can't have contrary qualities in the same respect at the same time. And all that means is like a thing cannot be both a square and a circle because those are both in the same respect morphological. They have to do with the shape, and they're contrary, and they would be at the same time, right?
Yeah, just so chat can keep up, that entire thing was just law of non-contradiction.
Yes, which is abstract. Well, kind of, not really. It's an invariant that is specifying. The law of non-contradiction is propositional, but this has to do with things that are existing. But yes, you can reduce it to a type of law of non-contradiction.
Do contradictions exist?
Well, contradictions in the sense that you can refer to them linguistically exist. Yeah, of course.
That's not the type of existence that I was referring to.
Well, if you mean like existence
exist
in the way that me and you, well, I don't think that language is the type of thing that you would say exists in that sense. So since contradictions are linguistic, right, obviously I wouldn't say that they have the type of existence that which is relevant, that what my invariant that I just laid out for the dialogue is quantifying over, right? But all that needs to be said to get it off the ground is that law is abstract, right? And so this is pre-existential insofar as you don't quantify over the law because the law cannot be subject to the law. That would create reflexive grounding, which is something you want to avoid since that grounding relations, when I say grounding, it's just like determination. So when X grounds Y, X partially determines or fully determines Y. And so the possibility space is grounded in the laws. So the laws cannot be something that which are a part of the possibility space. So they're not actually something that which.
Okay, I feel like you're doing a huge unnecessary amount of preamble. Can you get to the heart of your argument, please?
Well, this is the heart of the argument. This is
the heart of your argument is just the law of non-contradiction is true.
Well, the law. It's not the again. It's not the law of non-contradiction. It's that there's this invariant principle that allows for things to exist. Sure, you could say it's a law. It governs over the possibility space, and it is abstract. It is not something that which has a quantified existence. You cannot say this thing in this model is represented. It's pre the model. The model is something that's dependent on the thing.
So again, you're just describing a law.
Yes, and then so we have like a sort of we have like kind of like a trilemma where we either have no explanation, we just appeal to the law as self-explanatory, like a Platonist position, or you have the agential ground, and we can judge the explanations on IBE. Since the first horn of the trilemma doesn't even attempt to provide an explanation, we can kind of say that's immediately failing an IBE case. It doesn't have predictive power, expectations, explanatory breadth, depth, or whatever. It's just deflationary. So then really we have the two cases where the laws are just abstract entities, which are not quantified over, or they are possessed in an agent. We're still just
explaining what a law is.
No, I'm not. I'm going through the argument. I'm literally talking about how we're doing an IBE case for the agential cause. It's an IBE, which means inference to the best explanation. So I'm saying these laws either subsist in a mind or are independent ex nihilo, right? Or
laws
there's no explanation
don't exist
for
absent
why.
a mind. Laws never exist absent a mind because they are constructs that we come up with. It's nonsensical to say that laws exist outside of a mind.
That's also just like, well then, I mean, if you take these
principles
things
governed by the laws exist outside of a mind, but the laws themselves do not, because there are means of conceptualizing those principles.
The principles governed by the laws exist? So you think that the laws that govern reality, well, I mean, if what you mean by existence is that they're the same type of existence as a car or whatever, I would agree. But obviously, if these things determine the possibility space, right, they're real, and they're real either independent of a mind or dependent on a mind. And if they're real dependent on a mind necessarily, like what you're saying, then it would be a necessary case for theism, not just a IBE case. But I think that's dubious. I think that these things can obviously
Are you trying to get down to tag? Like, what are you're so lost in your own dialectic here.
How am I lost? What have I said that's like seeming confusing to you? Because I could just explain it.
First of all, you seem to conflate laws and the concepts behind them.
How am I conflating those?
Because why on earth would we need to determine whether or not laws exist independent of a mind? Obviously, laws do not exist independent of mind because they are something that we make to conceptualize things that exist outside of a mind.
Are you a theist? Like, I don't understand. Are you just a theist then? Like, what the hell is this even about? So laws don't exist independent of a mind. These laws govern reality, so these laws are pre-reality. Therefore,
no, the laws
there's a mind pre-reality. What are you talking about?
The laws do not govern reality. That's assuming that laws are prescriptive rather than descriptive. Our laws that we come up
Why would
with
I
are
accept? Well, no, the literal.
descriptive.
See, this is how you're not tracking. The first claim is that there's inadmissibilities in a possible sense. That's not a descriptive claim. That's saying that what
Inadmissibilities
is
in a possible sense. So when you say
that's-
inadmissibilities in a possible sense, do you mean some things are not possible?
I'm saying, yeah, that there's certain
And that's why it's
structures
fucking
that are
impossible to
inadmissible.
have a conversation. Because you're saying some things are inadmissible in the realm of possibility when you just mean some things don't exist.
No,
And it's
not,
the fact
again,
that you're
you're
using
conflating.
that
No,
fucking
you're doing a stupid thing
glossary
again.
speak.
No, stop it. Use me the same mistake
I'm
again, where you
sorry.
keep saying it's not, do not does not equal cannot. All right, cannot is a governing thing. It's saying that the possibility space. If you can look this up, there's a certain sense of governing principles of laws. You can look it up. Governing principles of laws is modally strong. What that means is that the law governs reality if and only if it constricts the possibility space of reality.
If
so, like,
we
for
decided,
example,
hold on, if we decided we wanted to,
hold on,
nope.
no, let me elucidate the law. Let me elucidate the explanation.
Fucking elucidate this dick, bitch. I'm gonna speak now. If we decided to change the law of gravity tomorrow, would that actually impact the force of gravity whatsoever? If we decided we're gonna rewrite the law of gravity, we decided that we're not gonna do it based on the square of the radius anymore. We're gonna do it based off of the square of the diameter. Would that actually change the force of gravity whatsoever?
Are you basically just asking me if we make an isomorphic system that essentially conveys?
No, dumbass. I asked you if we change the force of gravity, like if we change the law of gravity, would that change the force of gravity?
That's just question begging that these laws are Humean. You fucking dumbass.
It's not question begging. I'm asking you if
No,
we
it is.
decided to
When we
change
can-
the law
You're
of
being
gravity,
stupid. Okay.
would it actually impact gravity as a force? If we change our
Can I
law,
explain how it's
does
question
that
begging?
actually impact the force? I'm asking you a question.
Yes,
A
but the
hypothetical question.
hasn't-
How is that?
You know that questions can
It's a
have implicit
hypothetical.
presuppositions.
How is it
Questions
begging
can
a
have
question?
implicit presuppositions that are begging the question against a non-Humean position.
You're
Right
the one
now, you are
presupposing
saying,
that somehow the laws
dude,
we come up with
holy
are
crap.
prescriptive. Get the fuck off my live, you're annoying as shit. And your Uber driver is absolutely gonna give you a 1-star review, holy fuck. I just can't do with the glossary over talking and the condescension and the unnecessary verbosity. The bloviation, if you will. Just so loquacious. In absence of any reason for loquaciousness. Like, dude, calm the fuck down. Our laws are descriptive, not prescriptive. If we were to change the law of gravity, it would not actually impact the force of gravity. So the laws that we use as a means of navigating or conceptualizing certain aspects of our universe do not actually determine those aspects of the universe. It's like saying if I draw a map of a place and then I change the map, it changes the actual place. It's completely nonsensical. Obviously, if I draw a map of a forest and I erase a tree, the tree is still gonna be there. So laws are our map of aspects of our universe, the terrain. Altering the map does not actually alter the terrain. And I know you said that I was begging a question. I don't think it was question begging. I was asking you a hypothetical. But if you're saying that some things just don't fit into the possibility space or can't fit into the possibility space when you mean that they can't exist, that's just so ridiculous. So welcome in.
Yo, what up?
Hey, can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
Yeah, my name is Unum, and sure, pronouns. Cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Age was the second one.
Okay, you want the age. Jan 30, 1980.
Okay, didn't need the exact day, just need to make sure you're over 18.
Give you the social, too. You want the social?
Yes.
Yeah, last four, 3832, O positive.
Oh, so you'd be a pretty good donor, huh?
Wait a minute, is it O positive that's the donor, or is it
No, it's
O
O negative.
negative? Yeah, it's O negative then.
but O is still pretty good. Like O positive. Just O in general is pretty universally wanted.
Oh, is it?
I think it's AB negative that's the universal receiver.
No one likes AB negative. Those people are just irately don't like it. They're impossible to get along with.
All right. So speaking of impossible to get along with, what were those pronouns?
Oh yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. You want me to just say something that I don't really believe in that. So will you say something you don't believe in? Just say Christ is Lord, and I'll say that
well,
my pronouns are.
you just used some pronouns, so it's interesting that you don't believe in pronouns yet. You just used a lot of.
Yeah, I
them
believe in
that
pronouns that
sentence.
you know that I am, right? I like that I'm a
I
dude.
don't
know
know.
that you're
I'm
a woman.
asking what your pronouns are, so obviously I don't know what they are.
Okay, so what do you think I am? Let's just use best case scenario. Let's just use an
Annoying?
inductive reasoning, huh? Oh, I thought we were talking about
A virgin?
pronouns, not called. Yep, total virgin. So now, do you want to get to the substance of the argument?
Did you just want to come in here and declare that, or?
So God's not real. I just want the argument.
No, so I ask these 3 questions of every single person that comes on my stream.
Yeah, I'll say my pronouns as soon as you say Christ is Lord. Let's just talk about things we don't believe in.
All right, have a night. Hey, how's it going?
All right.
Can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
Xavier, 25, he, him.
Great. Do you have a religion?
Yes, Christianity.
Ah, well, I can especially say the Christian God is not real.
Why?
Because I've read the Bible, and it's pretty obvious that.
That's not a reason.
That's my reason, right? So I actually used to be a Christian for a very long time, up until the end of high school.
So were a lot of people that deconstructed.
Yeah, wonder why that is. So I read the Bible, and I found that it was full of contradictions, inaccuracies, and atrocities, and it's like, these things don't really add up to the God that is trying to claim to be real through this book. So.
Wait, can I ask you a favor real quick?
I'm not gonna show my tits. Oh my God! Stop asking.
Ew. No, ew. Anyway, give me the script of the website you're reading from.
I'm not reading from a website.
Oh, okay. Because I hear every atheist say the same exact thing. And the fact that you think I want to see you naked, don't exalt yourself.
I didn't say naked. I said topless. Jesus Christ! Slow your roll. You wanted to see my pussy?
Bro, atheists are very weird, bro.
You're the one who said it, dude. But like, I appreciate the compliment, by the way. Not reading from a website. I just sound like this. So yeah, I read the Bible, and it's like, okay, so this God says that he's like the source of morality. He is like the source of good. Yet he also like slaughters a bunch of children, and he says that you should burn women alive if they have sex before marriage. He doesn't understand how a hymen works. Just a whole bunch of things. It's like, this doesn't really make sense if this is actually an all-knowing, all-loving God. And he's gone. Okay, well, I think I scared him away with the word hymen. You're typing in chat instead of talking to me? Imagine thinking I want you. I don't have to imagine it. You clearly do.
Hello?
Why is there... You're in the rain again?
Yeah. Wait,
No!
do I sound bad?
I'm not doing that shit again. You came up here and you were in the rain last time, okay? I know it's a rain shower head. Hello. Either that or you're pissing for like 3 minutes straight. But hello everybody. This is a good little stopping point after that guest. Lovely to see you all. You may wonder why I'm all gussied up tonight. Because I'm not one who typically gussies. But I wanted to show off, and I'm gonna see how much I can like back up and show this off. I have this dress that was made for me by a viewer of the stream and friend of the channel on here as Noah's Lions. but is known as First Aid Fashion on Etsy, who made this for me. How cool is that? Like, that's so rad. It's got like this little corset that can go in the front or the back, and the skirt has all these like beautiful layers. It is so cool. So she made and sent this dress to me so I could wear it on stream for you guys, and I have a link to her Etsy in my link tree. So if you want to check out First Aid Fashion, go check that out. Again, it's top of my link tree right now. I absolutely love this dress, and the floral details, like the embroidery, are you kidding? And it's a lovely little halter top. I do have a push-up bra on, but I love it. So, it only felt deserving that I put a little more effort into the rest of this, because of that. So thank you all for being here. Thank you again to Noah's Lions on TikTok and First Aid Fashion on Etsy. So with that said, let's see if we can go on to our next caller. I'm just retying the tie. Da-da-da-da.
How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
Age 25, and I'm he, him.
And what do you want me to call you?
Yeah, just call me Vegeta.
Vagina, got it.
No, Vegeta, silly one. So the whole
my bad.
God debate. The whole God debate.
You got a God for me?
I mean, you already rejected him, didn't you?
Which one?
Well, you know one. You already mentioned him.
Noah's Lions?
The one that flooded the world. You know. Here's my question.
Oh, Bible guy.
Yeah. Now, if a lot of people say he's supposed to be all loving, but they confuse all loving with all tolerant. Like there's some things he ain't gonna be tolerant over.
Gotcha. So one of those things is like just happening to like be a baby when adults are bad around you. That's something he's not tolerant of.
I mean, let me ask you this: if you had the ability to do whatever you want, how many people in this world would you punish, and how many people would you save?
I would not slaughter anyone. Actually, I wouldn't kill anyone if I had the power. I mean, I do have the power. That is something that human beings can do to other human beings, and I don't. So, ugh.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, how many things? So, like, would you would just be a watcher? Like, the world would be like an ant farm, and you just be looking at it.
Oh, I'd be a huge cuck. Yeah.
No, but like, what would you do with that kind of power if you had the power to do whatever you wanted?
Yeah, if I had the power to do whatever I want, I would probably use it to like make the world a kinder place. To make sure that nobody ever wanted for anything, that there were no natural disasters, that there were no horrible illnesses, that nobody had to deal with poverty or starvation or pestilence or war. I would probably do those things. Or maybe I'd like make sure that like some rich white family's crusty white dog's leg surgery went okay. I guess that could be a priority too.
But what about free will? Like, if you just know these people are just going to just all out just start going to war no matter what you give them.
Is there free will in heaven?
That I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't say how I know heaven is ran completely.
Yeah, but there's two options. Either there is free will in heaven and there's no sin, which means it's possible to have free will and no sin, or there isn't free will in heaven and there's no sin. But heaven is supposed to be the place that we want to go, so it must be better to not have free will if it means no sin.
The whole idea of heaven is, I mean, the only thing I can get out of, I've heard the best descriptions of it. They say there'd be no such thing as being sad or crying.
Yeah, so no suffering.
That'd be taken away from you.
Yeah, so no suffering, yet there either is or isn't free will. So, yeah, either it's a good thing to not have free will if there's no suffering, or it's possible to have free will and no suffering. So either way, best thing is to take away suffering, right? I also don't think that stopping natural disasters or making sure that people have food to eat is infringing on their free will.
I don't know. That's like saying, okay, like, all right, I'll give you a good one. Okay, the whole in the scripture. Let's say if God intervenes on a lot of stuff. Let's say he said, you know what, I'm gonna stop this and this down the board. Everybody knows about him instantaneously. Would fear spread? Would fear spread, or would more people be happy?
I think more people would be happy if it's like, yay, no more grape.
But then the governments would still be like, hey, I like stuff the way it is. I'm in charge, and you coming to change my way of life.
You think the government would enforce and mandate grape?
No, what the governments would hate losing control. That's like, okay, let's say if you took theoretically,
I don't understand what you mean by losing control. If people just stopped having the desire to like grape other people, that's
like, okay, if you took Jesus and put him, let's say you just put him in America right now. He said, I'm going to change things. I'm going to change all the corruptions in the hospitals, the law system, the politics. I'm going to change it all. Do you think the government would accept that?
Probably.
No, they wouldn't. Especially if you say no more, no more taxes. They're gonna be like, no, Jesus, get out of here.
Are taxes a form of suffering?
It can
it's
be.
Just weird that you're like, oh yeah, sure, we could end all the suffering in the world, but think about how it would make the government sad, guys. Sure, no more children would ever have to starve or die of leukemia, but like the cabinet.
The governments would reject them. They'd be like, we can't tax people, we can't have greed, we can't do this.
I don't know what you mean reject them. If they just don't happen anymore, there's nothing the government can do to stop that from.
I see what you say. If you was like all powerful, there'll be no you could just reject me outright. No, I'm here. I see what you said.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Well, also just like, what are they gonna do? If I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna take away all the suffering, are they gonna be like, no, we're gonna make natural disasters happen?
I see what you said. It's like you're not asking them, you're telling them. It's like, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
Right, if I'm all powerful, yeah, literally all powerful means you can do anything. Like, there's an infinite number of ways that you can address any situation. So it would be completely possible for me to know the exact way to get rid of all the suffering and keep every single government in the world happy.
I can imagine you with the Infinity Stones. Yeah, so, a lot of stuff would get...
I just snapped away half of everyone's dick.
Hey, whoa.
It's fine. It's the left half. It's the left half.
Oh, whew. I had to check and make sure my shit was still there.
So do you see what I mean about if I had all power, I would get rid of all the suffering in the world?
I bet you would. Who gonna challenge you? You willing to do that? Motherfucking shit be go.
God could have done that too.
Listen, he didn't want to cause mass hysteria.
He knows the way that he could do it that wouldn't cause any hysteria. Again, he has all power.
I mean, look, it was already a passage in the book where he did that to somebody, where somebody's junk melted off because he got mad at him.
So hey, it works. But like, if God wanted to have a better world, he could do it. There's nothing that, like, he has to do. He would know precisely how to change the world without infringing upon anyone's free will. He would know that. Guys, stop asking. You're not getting the left half of your dick back. There's nothing necessary for God. Everything that he does is just because he feels like it. So he could absolutely just say, hey, no more tornadoes. No more bone cancer.
I think the whole premise of that, like, okay, there's a God, there's a Satan, there's an opposition. Would you view it as one giant cosmic chess game?
I mean, I think that's kind of already the case. It's just the players are just staring at the board and refusing to make a move. If you believe in Christianity, that's essentially what you believe in. That they're just staring at the board and saying, I'm gonna let them figure it out themselves.
Because it's like, Just like they say, Satan tempts, and he's technically running things as of right now, and God lets him do it until, like, way later on he comes back, Jesus comes back and overthrows and that whole 9 yards. But it's just basically saying that everything is playing out a role. So if he came and stopped all world hunger, all world this, then that'd be like him saying, "Hey, I'm breaking my own rules here."
I mean, who's gonna stop him from doing that?
Yeah, but he doesn't want to break his own rules.
Not even to, like, prevent suffering among the creation that he supposedly loves?
Yeah, look, y'all gonna get to all the good stuff later on. Trust me.
But none of the suffering is necessary, so he's just subjecting his creation to unnecessary suffering.
I mean, unnecessary. I mean, if you got one opposition saying, "Hey, look, let me take over. I can convince them to go against you," and he's like, "Look, if you go against me, there's going to be suffering." He's like, "Well, look."
Yeah, well, again, when I say unnecessary, I just mean that if God is all-powerful, there's an infinite number of ways that he can do things. So there's never a way that he has to do anything.
I see what you're getting at. You say he could just snap his finger, like you just said, snap your finger, and certain things just be, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to get rid of this, and this, and y'all still got y'all free will. I see where you're going. I see where you're going. But I'm happy that I'm glad we had this conversation. I mean, it was a friendly one.
Me too. You have a good rest of your evening, Vagina.
You too.
Good joke.
Yeah, hello?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, you?
Going all right. Can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
Yeah, Apostle, 24.
All right. You got a god?
Yeah, I'm a theist, yeah.
All right. Any particular religion?
Yeah, Catholic.
Gotcha. Well...
Yeah, why do you think theism's false?
I didn't say theism, just your god.
Well, if you claim that your god is false in regards to any theist that comes on here, then presumably that is saying theism is false. I mean, it seems pretty dishonest to say that to hold to an atheistic statement than say that's not the case.
Oh yeah, sure, I am an atheist, but this prompt was just especially written for you.
Yeah, that's fine. I would say that the Catholic God is probable.
Probable? Okay, so not even possible, but probable.
Well, if he's probable, then he's obviously possible. I think that's...
Right, implicated. But you're going a degree beyond possible.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Right. What makes you say that?
Well, firstly would be the grounding of necessary facts. I think it's more parsimonious to assume that all the collective of necessary facts is equal to one type of being instead of independently their own facts.
That's assuming it has to be a being. Yeah, the problem with, and it seems kind of like you're going off of, are you running tag here? Is that what's happening?
What? I'm not running tag. Tag is a presuppositional argument.
Well, you're saying that there has to be something to ground these necessary facts. That's typically the language they hear from people who are going to run tag.
I never said it's grounding it. I said that it's more parsimonious to assume all these necessary facts are equal to one type of being instead of being individual facts.
Yeah, I just don't understand why you think it has to be a being whatsoever. That does seem presuppositional in that you're assuming there is a being, that there is a deity.
Well, I'm not understanding like the kind of language you're using. Perhaps our perception of being is a bit different.
Yeah, so what you said is it's more parsimonious to assume it's one being rather than multiple beings. That's assuming that the only option is either one or multiple, rather than there being an option that is no beings.
Well, it'd be unpopular to assume there's no necessary facts. I think that's extremely unpopular.
I didn't say no facts, I said no beings.
Well, when I say beings, I'm just saying like objects. So like you could say like abstractum, for example. Like there's an abstractum in which is necessary.
But when you said these facts come from a single being...
I never said they came from. I never imply that like these necessary facts have prior. The argument is that it's more parsimonious that they're in equality with the same type of being. Like,
They're
if I were to say, for example,
with the same type of being. Okay, that's a different wording than before.
That's what I said the first time.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I don't understand why you're again saying that, like, why do these have to be grounded in any sort of agent? Because if you're just using being to say thing, yeah, that doesn't have to be a god. So your argument doesn't propose any sort of like god existing.
Well, I think that when we describe this type of being that contains all necessary facts, or we say an object that contains all necessary facts, I mean, I think we're just describing what we conceive a god to be, at least in our classical theism.
So you are using the being to indicate a deity.
Well, being means object, in the sense that I'm saying. I'm just saying that it seems a bit odd to say that, well, this is distinct from classical theism.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but to me, being implies some sort of agency. Because I wouldn't look at a rock and call it a being.
I could say an object.
Okay.
Like, if you prefer that.
But object to me indicates lack of agency. So you're saying that there is this entity that lacks any sort of agency that is also the means of obtaining those facts?
It's not a means of obtaining them. Like, they would be a collective prior. So maybe it's a bit confusing. Have you heard of like divine simplicity?
No, regale me.
Yeah, it's the view that all of God's traits are in equality with each other. Like, God isn't distinguished from, saying, being logic, or he's not distinguished from being like mathematical axioms or something like that.
So if you're saying that this is a being that doesn't necessarily have to have a will and just simply is certain aspects of our universe, I don't take that as theism.
Well, I never implied that it's not. I never implied it's not like a mind, but
you did when you said it was an object, and when I said that object implies lack of agency, and you didn't argue with that.
You and me are objects, so I'm not sure how that's the case.
We are subjects, are we not?
A subject is a type of object. Like, a subject is a person.
Yeah, so is subjective just a type of objective?
What? Wait, when we refer to what?
You're saying subjects are a type of objects. Usually subject and object are used in opposition to each other in this context. Like, if we say something is subjective, that is not objective. So to say that something is an object seems to imply that it is not a subject. To say that we are subjects and therefore we are objects is just strange. I don't know.
Well, I mean, all objective means is mind independent. Subjective means mind dependent. But, I mean, when we refer to, I mean, they're similar, sure, but only insofar as, like, the wording may sound similar. Like, a subject is just any being, like any object with a mind, and then an object is just like anything that exists. So you
are now revising your statement that object does not necessarily mean lacking a mind.
No, objects don't mean something lacks a mind. No.
Okay. So it seems you're kind of going back and forth, because when I press you on, okay, is this a deity? You say, well, I didn't say it was a deity. And so I say, hey, okay, so is it a subject? And you say, no, it's an object. And okay, I say, okay, so it doesn't have a mind. And you say, well, that doesn't mean it doesn't have a mind. Like, can you just clarify whether or not you think that this has to be some sort of god?
Well, the reasoning is that there wouldn't be any distinction between the kind of object I'm talking about and the kinds of things described in classical theism.
Yeah, so again, when you say object, you mean an object with a mind, correct?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
So your god does not have a mind?
No, I just don't. I don't think it's necessary to make that kind of positive claim.
You're a Catholic, and you don't think that God has a mind?
Well, if we're going to prove that God has a mind, I would have some arguments, but
it's not is, it's has.
Wait, yeah, that's what I said. It has a mind, but
yeah. I mean, so you don't think God has a mind?
I certainly do think he has a mind. I think a mind is necessary for creation, but
okay, then say that. Why? You talk around all the questions in a way that just makes it so much more confusing and requires me to ask a bunch of extra questions, which you then also answer confusingly too. So if I'm asking you, are you describing this object as something with a mind? If you think it must have a mind, then yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can explain why I wasn't going to commit to that at first.
Is it just because it's hard to defend?
Well, no. Usually the defense of a mind comes from an issue I find with creation itself. So like if we don't get to the issue of creation, or like why some universes are preferable over others for God to create, then we run into a case where I would imagine a mind would be necessary. But insofar as proving a God at least exists, I don't think it's necessary to at least like make that kind of claim that God has a mind.
Okay. So I don't really know how much of a discussion there is if you just say, well, there is something out there that we use as a basis for these things. It's just like so vague. If it doesn't necessarily have a mind, it can be an object. You say it's more parsimonious for it to be one object rather than multiple, but I don't think parsimonious really is reflective of reality. So I could just say that the universe is where we get all of those things from, and that would fit everything you've said so far, and it's still not theistic.
Well, I wouldn't say that necessary facts exist within the universe. I would say that the universe itself is contingent, and it would be quite confusing to say necessary objects or necessary facts even exist in the universe. Perhaps, like, obviously it would be the case that these necessary things are priors, but not that they're like
we're in the universe now. Do you not think that necessary facts exist? Because your argument is predicated on them existing.
Well, it's certainly true that they're true, like in this universe. I think that's obvious. But I mean, when you say they're inside the universe, like themselves, I think that's confusing. I think that's a bit incoherent.
Well, if we experience them and we are in the universe, then therefore they must be in the universe.
I wouldn't commit to that. When you say in the universe, do you mean like that they're predicated on the universe?
How is it that we in the universe could experience something not in the universe? It would have to be in the universe for us to experience it.
Maybe I'm a bit confused by what you mean. Do you mean that like that they just exist within the universe, or that the universe is a predicate to them?
That they exist within the universe.
Oh, then that's fine.
Yeah, I'm like, obviously, because your argument is based on necessary facts. So if you say, well, they don't actually exist in this universe, that'd be interesting. Yeah, so they exist in the universe. I don't see any need to attribute this to any sort of God.
Well, a reason might be this, like, if we were to say that, like a God which contains all these facts. Sorry, hold on.
I can't give you too long, Apostle. Much to the dismay of chat, I'm sure. Explain ATP synthesis without seeing God's fingerprints. You want me to go through the whole fucking thing? You want me to go through, like, Krebs cycle and all that shit? Please.
Sorry, I got a call. What was the last thing you said?
Well, I was talking to chat, but I was saying I don't see why we have to attribute any of this to any sort of, like, deity.
Oh, yeah. Well, the reason I might say this is, like, well, we might say that there's equal explanatory power in a collective object in the thing I explained. It's gonna have the same explanatory power as individual necessary facts. But the reason why parsimony would be particularly convincing is that, well, we would have to convince to a lot less objects or a lot less facts by saying it's all just like one collective fact, and which is not made of parts.
But that doesn't have any actual impact over whether or not that's true, whether it makes it easier for us to conceptualize. The universe is not necessarily like ideally parsimonious.
Well, I mean, it would certainly be a lot less like expensive to hold to that.
I don't. Again, I would need to see evidence, not just, well, this would be easier for me to believe.
Well, that would be the evidence.
That's not evidence. It used to be easier for them to believe that God pulled the sun across the sky in a chariot. That doesn't make it true.
Sure, but given the kind of facts we're aware of now, it seems that this does seem likely.
There's still a near infinite amount of things that we don't know.
Well, I mean, that would just be an argument from, like, ignorance.
Well, yeah, no, it's just you're saying that, like, well, because of the facts that we have now, like, I don't really see how that impacts it. Again, the universe is not necessarily ideally parsimonious, so just because you think something is easier to believe has no bearing on whether or not that thing is actually true. Like, a lot of people find Christianity easy to believe, that doesn't make it true.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I'm not repeating all that, man.
The last part.
I said a lot of people find it easy to believe Christianity, that doesn't make it true. Alright, Apostle, I'm gonna let you go take care of whatever you need to take care of. I see Red Soup is in here. Hi. If you're real nice in chat, maybe I'll keep this dress on until you come home. This is a good place for me to flirt with my partner, right? This is a safe space for me to just making sure. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
Yeah, I'm Soldier. I'm 33 and he, him.
All right, you got a religion, Soldier?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
I'm gonna feel like Karlak calling you that over and over. You're Christian. Well, you're God, not real.
Okay, so how do you explain if God is not real, the origin of the universe?
I don't think it had an origin. I think the universe is eternal.
Well, modern Big Bang cosmology teaches us that time, space, and matter had a finite beginning.
Nope, 68% of physicists, when polled, said that the Big Bang actually doesn't indicate an absolute beginning.
Yeah, that's a minority consensus. The majority consensus is that the universe has a finite beginning.
Quick little poll for chat. Is 68 more or less than 50?
You can have a 68% of a minority consensus.
Yeah, it's just this was at a pretty big convention. There was a lot of physicists polled. You would have to show me some like counter data to indicate that it's a minority opinion. Because 68% said doesn't mean an absolute beginning, and I believe 10 to 15% said no opinion when answering that same question. So it would be a pretty significant minority claiming that it was an absolute beginning, unless you have different data that I haven't seen.
No, we can use even logic and reasoning and say that because of the laws of the universe cannot be eternal. It had to have began at a certain point. I
disagree. I would say because of the laws of the universe, it must have been eternal.
Well, the second law of thermodynamics tells us that the universe cannot be eternal.
How so? And what is that law?
Well, the second law of thermodynamics says that in closed systems, entropy increases. So that means systems naturally drift from order to disorder. Energy gradually goes from usable to non-usable until we reach heat death. So we reach equilibrium. So if the universe has always been here, it's had an infinite time to decay and run out of energy.
If the universe itself is infinite, is it a closed system?
Well, the universe definitionally is all space, all time, all matter, and all energy in existence. So for something to be outside of that must be transcendent.
Yeah, I'm just asking, like, is the universe a closed system?
Yes, the universe is a closed system.
Okay, if you want to hold to that. I would say that that assumes that there is a like starting point and an ending point for the amount of entropy in our universe. But also because our models do break down prior to the Big Bang, it is possible that there is a cycle. You know, the Bang Crunch Bang theory is increasing in popularity, and that could indicate that the second law of thermodynamics didn't necessarily apply prior to the Big Bang, so there could have been changing amounts of entropy in the universe. But I would say, as far as the universe having to come into existence, it's contradictory for there to be a beginning of time. And if time has always existed, then I don't see why the universe wouldn't always exist.
Well, I don't think there's any contradiction in saying that their time had a beginning, because before that would be eternity. But
no, that is because time is just a sequence of events, correct?
Sure.
So, absent time, it would be impossible for there to be any sort of change. So that would have to be a completely changeless state. So how does a state completely absent of change into a changing state?
I'm not sure. It's a little over my head. But for the models that you presented, the Big Crunch, the Big Bang, those models still use energy. So we would still be at a point of equilibrium if that were the case. And those ideas are more speculative than evidential.
More speculative than evidential.
They're more the ideas behind them are more speculative than they have evidence to be presented for, like quantum vacuums, multiverse theories, things like that. When people defend those things, they're defending possibilities rather than defending evidence.
Yeah, I didn't defend a multiverse or anything like that. I think that we have good reason to believe that the universe was eternal. It is not a minority opinion that the Big Bang doesn't mean an absolute beginning. So it's kind of difficult to go from there when you only recognize the Big Bang as a possible, like, absolute beginning.
Wouldn't that be confirmation bias for me to explain how the universe could not be eternal using the second law of thermodynamics, talking about closed systems, entropy, and, speculative ideas, for you to still say that the universe is eternal?
No, because I provided my evidence for why I think why. I demonstrated why I think that time was eternal, and if time is eternal, then the universe would be eternal, because it's logically contradictory for there to be a beginning to time. So if there is not a beginning to time, then there wouldn't be a beginning to the universe.
Well, like I said, I can't really talk about that argument. I don't really know how to refute
but
it.
Then
Aside
you can't
from
say that
saying
it's just...
that I know that if time began,
Right, but then you can't claim that I'm just going with confirmation bias when I present evidence and you just say, well, I can't process that evidence. That's not how that works. I presented evidence whether you are able to interact with it or not.
Well, evidence more for the existence of the universe, not specifically just for time, but space and matter as well. You gave me speculative ideas instead of things that the actual evidence points towards.
No, I gave you why it would be logically contradictory for time to begin. If it's logically contradictory for time... Aside from that, that's like a pretty fucking important part of it.
Well, you're missing the other three things. You're just mentioning time when there's also space, matter, and energy. Okay, so you're providing evidence.
Can energy be created or destroyed according to the laws of thermodynamics?
Well, the first law tells us that it cannot, but God can create energy.
Okay, so going off the laws of thermodynamics that you seem to love so much, energy cannot be created or destroyed, therefore energy must have always existed. If energy must have always existed, then the universe must have always existed for that energy to be somewhere.
No, God can create energy. If he cannot create energy, he's not all powerful, and he's not God.
Okay, so you can't just refute me saying that by saying, okay, but God could do it, because you were arguing based off of the second law of thermodynamics, there must be a beginning. I'm saying based off of the laws of thermodynamics, energy must have always existed. So you can't then say, oh, but God. That's just special pleading. That's completely throwing out the laws of thermodynamics just to suit what you want them to say. That's literally bringing magic into the equation.
That's not special pleading. That's literally a defining characteristic of God. If he cannot create energy, then he is not God. That's not special pleading. That's the truth. And
you saying it's the truth doesn't mean it's not special pleading.
The second law of thermodynamics tells us that the universe cannot be eternal. Imagine if I turned a car on, it would eventually run out of gas. The same thing with the universe. The universe is active and alive. It would have eventually ran out of energy by now. And so the fact that the stars are still going, the fact that we still have galaxies, black holes, the fact that the sun is still running, we still have energy input and output, tells us that the universe is not eternal.
How long have you had that statement prepared?
Nobody had that statement prepared. You brought it out of me.
No, you're pretty clearly reading, but
I'm not. I can show you my screen. I have my computer on, but it was of a rejection that you had the last time the last person that you talked to. I haven't typed anything into my computer this whole conversation. I actually enjoy these conversations. I've studied this stuff a lot.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about why I think it is special pleading to just say, okay, well, God can do it with magic, therefore we can throw out all the other rules. How am I supposed to engage with something that is not falsifiable? If you just say, well, there is a guy who can do whatever he wants, and so we don't have to listen to any of the things that we actually observe or any of the evidence that we actually have, because he can just do it with magic. How am I supposed to interact with that in a debate?
Because like I said, if we're talking about God here, we're not talking about someone that just acts like a human. We're not talking about someone that just acts like we would expect him to act. He's a God of miracles. He's a God of quote unquote magic. He's a God of
I didn't ask you, is he a god of miracles, is he a god of magic? I asked you, in the context of a debate, if you bring up something completely non-falsifiable, such as there's an all-powerful God who can just do magic and disobey all of the things that we actually observe, how am I supposed to interact with that in the context of a debate? That's just completely unreasonable. Because what if I just said to you, well, it's my imaginary friend who does all this. My imaginary friend, his name is Sherbert, and he made the universe. Like, there's not really a way to debate against that. You have to provide evidence for why I should believe in this thing.
No, that's a false equivalence. We're not talking about some imaginary friend. We're talking about God. And I said,
imaginary, and you think is your friend. So,
well,
yours is called Yahweh, mine's called Sherbert.
The creation of the universe, fine-tuning, objective morality, conscious, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ would tell us that God is real. But if we're talking about God, like I said, a defining characteristic of him is that he has to be able to do these things.
The universe is not fine-tuned. The universe is not created. There is no sufficient evidence for the resurrection of Christ. There's not even really sufficient evidence for the historical existence of Jesus Christ. So no, those things do not prove God's existence. You're presupposing God's existence and saying, well, my magic guy can break all the rules.
No, not at all. And to say that Jesus Christ never existed is historically illiterate. Even if we burned every Bible that we have today, we can still know that Jesus existed by the non-Christian sources that wrote about him.
No.
But other than that, like I said, we're not talking about some random person. We're talking about God here. And God, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving being, able to create the universe.
My imaginary friend, Sherbert, is all-powerful and created the universe. And he's only revealed himself to me because I'm extra special.
Well, like I said, that's a false equivalence, and it's really just mockery.
How so? If my all-powerful, godlike, invisible, imaginary friend has all the exact same powers of your God, literally, he told me, I have all the exact same powers of the Christian God, then how is it a false equivalence?
Because I have a ton more evidence to prove the existence of God than you have to prove the existence of your imaginary friend.
Well, all the things that you think are evidence of God are actually Sherbert. He was just trying to hide his identity by making it look like your God.
Well, mockery is not an argument. Do you have an actual contention against what I said?
That is my argument. My argument is everything that you attribute to your God was actually Sherbert. He was doing that to fool you.
Well, like I said, reality points to God. Reality points to God revealed in Christianity as well. The beginning of the universe, fine-tuning, objective morality.
Those are things you're presupposing and you've yet to demonstrate.
We don't. I've demonstrated it all. I've demonstrated the beginning of the universe.
You have not.
Yes, I have. We just went through all of that.
Yeah, and you did not demonstrate it. Also, to everyone trying to correct me, his name is Sherbert. It's not Sherbet. He doesn't spell it Sherbet. He spells it Sherbert. All right. Yeah, you didn't demonstrate any of that. You just said, well, God is magic, so he can do it however he wants, when the evidence contradicted what you were saying.
No, that's not at all what I said. You're misrepresenting my position, but I can understand why it's a hard subject to talk about. So, reality points to the universe being created and being fine-tuned by God.
Can you teach me what's fine-tuning? Me no know.
No, you know.
Me no know.
You know these arguments, and deep down, you know that God is real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I always love when people try to tell me my beliefs for me. I appreciate that. Like it's not condescending whatsoever. For you to try to explain to me what I actually believe. Yeah, no, that's not true. That's just something that like your weird cult book told you. Actually, Sherbert told me that not everyone believes in God deep down. So we have equal amounts of evidence for our imaginary friends who have magic and are all powerful, except mine deliberately takes actions to fool you into thinking that it's your God, because he doesn't like being worshipped. So every evidence that you have, I'm just going to say, well, Sherbert told me he did that.
Oh, because that's an intelligent argument, right? That's the way you debate people.
We have the same amount of evidence for both of our guys. That's the problem. If you had something that I would not be able to just unfalsifiably say, oh, well, that's my magic guy, then we would have an actual argument. But if you get to bring up, well, my magic guy gets to do whatever he wants, well, then my magic guy gets to do whatever he wants.
No, we're talking about God and what makes him God and what he has to possess to be God, which are those qualities: being all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving.
Those things, yep.
Well, your Sherbert person your imaginary friend doesn't exist. You don't have evidence to support that he exists, and to say that you have more evidence for him than God is a really completely irrational argument, and it's not something that I would expect from talking to someone like you. God created the universe.
No, Sherbert did. Nice try, though.
No, the reality points to God revealed in Christianity.
And again, you think that's the case because Sherbert tricked you into it.
No, because the beginning of the universe, fine-tuning, objective morality, the life, death, resurrection of Jesus, and humanity's awareness of transcendence tells us.
Sherbert did all of that.
No, Sherbert didn't do any of that, but God did.
Sherbert did do all of that. He just wanted you to think that God did it because Sherbert doesn't like being worshipped. Because he's a little less narcissistic than the Christian God. And also, the things that you just said, you're presupposing those are true. Don't actually present any evidence for them, and they're not true. So I'm just going to say my magic guy. You can just keep saying your magic guy. I don't really know if we're going to get anywhere.
Well, to say I presented no evidence is...
You presented claims.
Yeah, those aren't claims.
You said fine-tuning, the creation of the universe, the resurrection of Christ. All of those are claims. That's not evidence.
No, those are evidences. Evidence is
anything
that supports the truth of a conclusion.
I don't think fine-tuning exists. I don't think the creation of the universe happened, and I don't think there was a resurrection of Jesus Christ. So no, that's not evidence, that's claims.
Saying that you don't believe in those things is not the same thing as saying there's no evidence. Those are two different things. You cannot believe in something that you cannot believe in evidence. That doesn't mean that evidence is non-existent.
It's not an evidence. It's a claim. You're claiming the universe is fine-tuned. You're claiming that the universe was created. You're claiming that Christ resurrected. That's not evidence.
Evidence is any information, fact, or testimony that supports the truth of a claim or indicates that something exists. The creation of the universe, Big Bang cosmology is evidence. The fine-tuning of the universe is evidence. The second law of thermodynamics is evidence. Eyewitness testimony is evidence. These things are definitely evidence.
We don't have any eyewitness testimony.
Well, yes, we do. We have
zero eyewitness testimony to the life, death, and supposed resurrection of Jesus. Zero.
How could you miss it? Their names are at the top of the page.
Top of the page?
Yeah,
really?
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Did you miss them?
You think Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
Well, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John have always been accredited to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John with no instance of misattribution to anyone else.
With
So
no
if they were
instance
not
of
written by Matthew, Mark, Luke,
misattribution
and
to
John,
anyone
then
else.
who wrote them?
So just because they've always been attributed to certain people, that must mean those people actually wrote it, even if the evidence suggests that they didn't? The names were added later. Those Gospels were written anonymously.
They're added later.
They attributed it to them long after the events of the Gospels were supposed to have taken place.
So if the names are added later and we have anonymous Gospels, where are those? Where are the anonymous Gospels that you speak about? And why are they all attributed to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? I'm curious.
I'm sorry, do you think it's a flex to be like, well, we don't actually have the original manuscripts, we just have copies from the early 1st century? Checkmate, atheist. Does that seem like a flex to you? That just means that you have even worse evidence.
I'm asking you a serious question.
Yeah, so they're attributed to those authors because of church tradition. We don't have any signed Gospels that say, yep, my name is Mark and I wrote Mark. The church put those names on those books. And some of them borrow and directly copy from each other. And at the end of John, it says, we know these things to be true. So it's written in, like, first person plural. So if it was just written by John, why would it say, we know these things to be true?
Well, the New Testament was already being quoted by the early 2nd century. So for it to be quoted, those documents must have been copied and spread around those continents before Irenaeus could get his hands on them. So if these Gospels were being copied and spread across the world, or these continents, basically, how could Irenaeus or anybody possibly go get all of these manuscripts and change the names to whoever he wanted to change the names to? Do you know how quite impossible that would be?
What you just said didn't really interact with what I said.
It did. Well, you mentioned you mentioned a lot of things, so I'm trying to focus on one instead of diving into all of them at one time.
Yeah, so I just said it was church tradition that ascribed those names to the authors of the Gospels.
Which church tradition?
And
how do you know that?
Church tradition?
Yeah, added the names to the Gospels, because you said they added them. So which church tradition added them, and how do you know that?
When you say something is a church tradition, that doesn't mean that there was like a specific name. Like, this is the tradition of gospel naming. That's not how that works. It means
because
it was decided by council on behalf of the church to attribute those names to the authors of the gospel.
Yes, I'm saying that the gospel authors have always been attributed to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you're saying that some church tradition added them. So the evidence shows that there is no misattribution. So where are you getting that their names were added? You say it's by some church tradition. What church tradition are you talking about?
Again, that's just a misunderstanding of what one means when they say by church tradition. Because if I say, like, by the Catholic Church tradition, they take sacraments, like that doesn't mean that there was like one specific time that they sat down and they're like, well, we're gonna call this a sacrament.
So you believe it's the Catholic tradition that added these names to the gospel? Is that what you believe?
That's not what I said. Do you want to look up the
well, that's what you mentioned,
that they were attributed? Yeah, I was just trying to...
Well, the names, like I said, the names could not have possibly have been added by Irenaeus or anybody. They were already being quoted by Papias 60 years earlier, for one. The quote that Irenaeus gives is almost verbatim what Papias says. So how could Irenaeus have added the names if Papias was talking about them 60 years prior? And secondly, like I said, these Gospels were already in widespread circulation by the time they reached the 2nd century. So how could the early church fathers already be quoting all of the New Testament documents if the names were added?
Yeah, so you're gonna jump down my throat if I use Bart Ehrman?
No, Bart Ehrman he's an atheist, so but he seems to be reasonable in some of his findings. Not that he's completely trustworthy, because he doesn't support Christianity, or he has some bias towards it, but...
So, is that a yes or a no?
Well, I'm saying that I'm not saying that he's completely trustworthy in everything he says, because if you're going to look for a supporting historian or scholar for Christianity, you would want a Christian, right? I wouldn't find an atheist.
Okay, so do you want me to find a different source to talk about it, or like?
Well, we don't have to.
Am I only allowed to
we
use a Christian scholar?
We don't have to appeal to authority or the populace. We can just look at what the evidence tells us.
Who do you think is presenting the evidence?
Well, I'm presenting the evidence.
No,
I'm saying
made
the Gospels
claim. What's your source for that evidence?
I'm saying the Gospels have always been attributed to those authors, and I'm saying
what is your source for that claim?
The thousands and thousands of documents that we use to transcribe the Bible that we have, that we use to rebuild the Bible that we have.
Again, what is your source for that claim? You do not understand the difference in claims and evidence.
Documents are evidence. Okay, the Codex Vaticanus, Codex.
You were saying there are documents.
Evidence. Yes, and I'm giving you the names of those documents.
Okay, now you are. Yes. What documents were you citing?
Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Vaticanus. The Codex Vaticanus has most of the Old Testament and most of the New Testament. Sinaiticus has most of the entire New Testament and most of the Old Testament.
So, Codex Vaticanus is a 4th century Greek Bible. Yeah, the ones you listed were 4th century ones.
Yeah, 4th century. We have P52, 2nd century. P46, late 2nd century documents.
And you're not reading this, or?
Well, I have my notes also. Now I'm looking, yes.
Okay.
I think that's what any intelligent person would do, but at the beginning of this conversation, there was no need to. I know Big Bang cosmology and the eternal universe argument by heart.
P52 definitely doesn't have like attributed authors to the Gospels, by the way. It's a 2.5 by 3.5 inch fragment.
Yeah, it contains small portions of John 18. P46 has large portions of Paul's letters. P66 contains most of the Gospel of John.
We're talking about when these were attributed to these certain authors. So P52 does not attribute it to John. It is part of what was later attributed to John. It does not attribute it to John.
Yeah, with the Codex Vaticanus and the Codex Sinaiticus are the inside of it's the
Those are
New
4th
Testament
century.
and the Old Testament. It's not just some random book.
Those are 4th century. Those are both.
Yes, and these
century.
are some of the documents that we use to reconstruct the Bible that we have.
Yeah,
we
but
take all of these documents.
You claim that the names. You claim that the names were already attributed to the gospel authors prior to the 2nd century. You cannot use 4th century documents to support that claim.
Yes, we can, because the internal evidence in those documents describe a 1st century world with 1st century Jewish customs, 1st century Pharisees, 1st century Sadducees. So that's how we know that those documents come from the 1st century. Huh?
That has nothing to do with who wrote them. We're talking about attributing authorship. If you're choosing something from way after when you claim that authorship was attributed, that only shows that attribution from the point of the documents onward. So from the 4th century onward. You can't use 4th century documents to make a claim about the 2nd century.
Yes, we can, because the Codex Sinaiticus, the Vaticanus, and things like that, the documents they have in there already describe that they already say that Matthew is Matthew, John is John, Luke is Luke. That's not anonymous in those documents.
Those are 4th century documents.
I'm trying to get to my point. I'm saying that we don't have the originals of a lot of ancient history. So how do we know that they came from the 1st century or anything like that? How do we know they're trustworthy? We scrutinize them. We use the internal evidence to see when these documents came from. We can use I can't remember how you date the actual manuscript or what word is used for that, but we can use the internal evidence to tell us that these documents are actually 1st century, still with the names Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We have no reason to believe that just because they came from the 1st century that they no longer are attributed to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
So you're saying that though this was 4th century, it's actually comprised of documents from the 1st century?
I'm saying that the documents that it has, which are the New Testament and the Old Testament, describe a 1st century world.
That's
in the 1st century. They had active Sadducees. Listen.
No, you listen, because saying they describe that world doesn't mean that it was written by those people that they attribute them to. Like, the entire argument we're making is not whether or not it describes a 1st century world. We're trying to decide whether or not the Gospels were actually written by the people that they were later attributed to. You can't just say, well, because these documents accurately describe the time period in which these people were thought to have lived, that must mean it was written by them. That makes no sense. Anyone who lived in that time period could have written that, or anyone who had knowledge of that time period could have written that. You would need solid evidence that the people were actually the people that those books were attributed to.
No, okay, so that's what I'm saying. You would have to show evidence that it's actually that somebody corrupted it. But what I'm saying is that if the Codex Vaticanus and these codexes, if they have the New Testament documents and Old Testament documents that they describe still attributed to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and that we can tell internally that these documents actually are not 4th century, that these documents are really 1st century documents, we have no reason to believe that because of that gap that automatically means that they're anonymous or that they're attributed to somebody else. We know that in the 1st century, these documents were still true, so that the names, the gospel authors, Paul, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are still the authors of these books. We have no reason to believe that they're anybody else. They're from anybody else.
Witnessed the living Jesus.
Well, Paul did, and that's a separate argument.
Huh?
Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus, but I said that's a separate argument.
Not living Jesus.
The resurrected Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, again, the evidence that you're using doesn't actually support the claim that you're trying to support it with.
It does actually.
No, because all you're saying is, well, these 4th century documents have things that were believed to have been written in the 1st century. I'm not arguing whether or not that they have things that were written in the 1st century. I'm arguing whether or not they were actually written by the people that the church says they were written by. And you haven't actually provided any evidence as to why that is, because again, these were written anonymously. They were later attributed to these people. And so for you to say, well, by the 4th century we have these documents that say they wrote it, that's not compelling evidence.
You keep misrepresenting my position, and the church doesn't say that these gospel writers wrote anything. The manuscripts tell us who wrote these documents. The gospels tell us who wrote these documents. We don't need somebody to tell us. They're not, like I said,
signed.
These gospels cannot be anonymous. Like, they were already in widespread circulation by the early 2nd century. So for somebody to go and change the names in these gospels would be impossible. For them to go across these continents and change all of these documents that were already in widespread circulation. So they could not possibly be anonymous.
What do you mean change all the the names don't appear until the 2nd century.
Just because we don't have the exact 1st century and 2nd century documents doesn't mean that there aren't any. It doesn't mean that
you won't have to change it if they weren't already attributed. Like, you don't have to change it if there was no attribution. They were written anonymously. There would be no change necessary.
They weren't written anonymously. They could not have been. They were already in widespread circulation. These gospels were already in widespread circulation and being recognized by the church fathers by the early 2nd century. Hold on.
2nd century, which is 200 years after they were supposed to have taken place.
No, that's the early 2nd century, I said. And Clement is already quoting Paul by AD 95. He says, "Take up the epistle of the blessed Paul the apostle."
Paul's not a gospel author.
Yes, he is. The early church fathers recognized Paul as a gospel author.
Matthew, Mark,
Paul
Luke, and John are the gospels.
Oh, I'm not talking about God. Yeah, he's not a gospel author, no, but he's a writer of the rest of some of the books in the rest of the Bible, yes. But it doesn't matter. They came out at about this. They came in.
Paul. We're arguing about the gospels.
Well, they all came out in the 1st century, so it's not like Paul's letters were out and the Gospels weren't. They were all being recognized, and Clement was already quoting Paul by AD 95, the 1st century. So how are these documents anonymous, and how are they not 1st century when we have people quoting them that are in the 1st century?
You were talking about something that is not the Gospels to try to say, well, see, the Gospels weren't anonymous. You can't quote non-Gospel books as evidence for the Gospels. So that's one little issue that we've got there. Paul is not a Gospel author, so you can't use Paul for your timeline.
He's still part of the books that were in widespread circulation. So even if it is not a gospel author, he's still a writer of the books of the New Testament.
If we're talking about the authors of the gospel, we kind of need to just talk about the gospels. So you can't say, well, Paul. That's just...
Well, I mentioned Paul writes his name in these books, and you said that Paul didn't write them. So does that make Paul anonymous, or does that make these books anonymous?
When I said Paul didn't write a gospel, I didn't say that the other things attributed to Paul weren't Paul's. But okay, Paul is not a gospel author.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I must have misheard you.
Yeah, so if we're talking about the Gospels, I would need evidence that it's actually the authors that we say they are.
Well, like I said, if you say they're anonymous, you would need to show that there are anonymous authors. Because we can show you, I can look at my Bible and show you who wrote it. You can look at a Bible and look and show and
That's
see
who they're
wrote
attributed to. But for, until the 2nd century, there were no names given to the authors of the Gospels.
Yes, they were. Like I said, for the early church fathers to be quoting the Gospels as they were.
You can quote something without attributing it to an author.
Say it again?
You could quote something without saying, and this was written by my buddy Matthew. That's not how that works.
Well, yes, these church fathers quoting this New Testament is a big deal, because these had to have been the truth. He's not going to just accept something and preach it as truth. And like I said, these books were already in widespread circulation. So for them to be quoting them is significant, because that means that, and then we're not just talking about one church father in one specific continent. We're talking about church fathers all across the world, or all across these continents. So for all of these people across continents and time to be quoting the New Testament means that it had to have been in widespread circulation. And for them to be quoting it by the early 2nd century means
untrue to protect dogma. Never. The church would never do that. Anyway, the flood didn't happen, right?
Well, that's another claim, but we have tremendous evidence for the flood.
No, that was actually evidence. That was evidence that God's not real. The flood didn't happen.
Well, that's a claim. That's not evidence.
No, it's evidence because it strengthens the argument that God's not real if I say that the flood didn't happen. So that makes it evidence.
No, that's specifically a claim. That's not evidence of anything.
Oh,
you can
really?
say,
So maybe saying fine-tuning the creation of the universe is evidence for the existence of God is not right either?
No, it is evidence for God, because Big Bang cosmology tells us that the universe is finite.
It's evidence when you do it, but
That's
not
evidence.
when I do it. I get it now.
Because you're saying God doesn't exist. That's a claim. I'm not saying God exists. I'm saying Big Bang cosmology points to a finite beginning, and I'm saying God created the universe. It even tells us in Genesis 1:1, which is another form of evidence.
That is a claim that God exists.
I'm giving you more evidence on top of evidence on top of evidence.
Yeah, so first you are claiming God exists if you're saying certain things are because of God. That is implicitly
That's not just a
claiming that God
claim.
exists.
It is evidence. Big Bang cosmology is evidence. It's
Okay,
not just
then the flood not happening is evidence. The flood didn't happen, and that's evidence that God's not real.
Well, be reasonable. I know that you're an intelligent person.
I gave you a chance to walk it back, soldier, and you doubled down on conflating evidence and claims.
Well, you're definitely conflating evidence and claims, but that's not
I'm doing
I'm
it
not here to
to
argue
demonstrate
about.
to you why it doesn't work.
I'm presenting evidence. You're presenting claims. And you're trying
You
to act
are
like my
not!
evidence are just claims.
You are
Is Big
presenting
Bang
just claims.
is Big Bang cosmology, the second law of thermodynamics, are those just claims or is that evidence?
You saying
That's not
first
my
of all,
question. Are
we're
those
not-
evidence
hold
or are
on.
those just claims?
We're not arguing over whether or not the second law of thermodynamics exists.
So you're dodging me right now. I'm
Well, I'm
asking you, are
clarifying.
those evidence?
We're not arguing over whether or not that exists. You're saying those mean that God is real. That is a claim.
You're telling me that I'm making claims and not evidence. I'm asking you, is Big Bang cosmology and the second law of thermodynamics evidence or just claims? Because if they're not just claims and they're evidence, then I'm not just presenting claims, I'm presenting evidence to you.
It's not
that you're dodging.
evidence.
They are evidence.
No. Oh, hold on. 1 second. Face ID doesn't recognize me because I look so much better than usual. Yeah, you've been voted off the island, soldier. Bye. You guys can thank Kimberly for that kick. I also would like to thank Kimberly for that kick. Just saying things are evidence doesn't actually make them evidence. So yeah, Kimberly's in chat. I see it already. Yeah, that was something, wasn't it? If you're new here, and I have a lot of people on YouTube, more so than usual, so if you're new here, throw a follow or a sub my way. I don't usually look this nice, so enjoy it while you can. But I'll also do another little shout out to Noah's Lions who made this dress. I'm gonna stand up and show it off because it's a little crinkled because of the way I sit. But look at this. She made this for me. Her Etsy is linked in my link tree. Oh, thank you for the budding heart on TikTok. Oh, love that. So if you are interested in checking out her Etsy shop, go to my link tree because she made this for me. This is, I don't know if that counts as like an ad. She didn't pay me for this. She just made me this and sent me this. And I think it's beautiful, so I'm sharing her Etsy. So go check it out if you would like. It's awesome. I'm gonna be taking some pictures in it eventually as well. I don't have good ones though. I tried taking some when I was like home alone on a rainy night, as one does, and they kind of just look like weird casting couch photos. So I'm not gonna go with that. So our next guest. I'll show more of the dress if we get to 30,000 likes on TikTok. This guest isn't loading in. Alright, sorry you didn't load in. You can re-request. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Can I get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
Yeah, you can just call me Rancho. I'm 19, he, him.
Alright, you have a religion?
Yeah, I'm a Hindu.
Hindu, interesting. Well, I guess I'd have to add an S here. Don't have many like polytheistic religions coming up here.
Well, okay. I guess it's not strictly polytheistic or monotheistic because certain interpretations of the religion will say like, oh, these are separately existing deities or something. But at least the notions that I subscribe to are just there's one deity and what you see are multiple like incarnations. So there's like 10 different incarnations that represent like the evolutionary processes, things along those lines.
Interesting. What makes you say those are deities?
Well, there's only one deity who is Brahma, who's the creator of the universe.
Well, what makes you believe in that deity?
Oh, well, I just think that there's phenomena that are best explained by the existence of him in
Best
our
explained.
world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like what?
It's an inference to the best explanation.
Like what?
Oh, yeah, one example would be something like fine-tuning. I think that's probably the strongest case.
Yeah, I don't think that there is fine-tuning.
You don't think that we exist in a universe with life-permitting constants?
I think that life formed around the constants, not the other way around.
Well, when we look at the leading, physicists and what they speak about this, it's not like life is, something that adapts to the constants. When we look at the range of constants outside of what we currently have, we'll see that, leading theories in biology, leading physicists, they believe that life couldn't have formed because the gravitational force just being off by a minute amount would not even allow for atoms to come together. And if we assume that that's like the fundamental building blocks of life, how are you supposed to have life forms without atoms being able to form together or atoms being able to come together? So that's one point.
I think you're confusing atoms with cells.
Wait, what do you think cells are made of?
Well, no, you're just saying that life is dependent on everything would be dependent on atoms. Literally nothing could exist.
Yeah, so if atoms couldn't come together, how would life forms come together?
Yeah, it was just strange that you were using that specifically to talk about life, because that would mean that there just would be nothing. But it could have come together in a different way given different constants. It just wouldn't have been the way that we know it.
Wait, that's not what the leading physics tells us.
What the leading physics tells us. Wouldn't you want to look to biology for things about
What do you think
life?
Biology is predicated off of?
I think biology is predicated off of?
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to say
Do you
physics?
not think that... Yeah.
Physics applies...
specifically chemistry, and then chemistry is just going to be another
I appreciate
layer
that
of abstraction
didn't give me the
above
chance to finish speaking about it. Because, like, what the fuck would I know about biology, right? So... You claim that the leading biology claims that life wouldn't have been able to emerge if the constants in the universe were different?
I'm just saying the leading experts in the field, whoever you deem them to be, converge that the vast amount of constants, or the vast permutation of constants, would not be life permitting.
Right, but we wouldn't know. Like, we wouldn't be here to observe that if that were the case.
That's true, but then do you agree that life
I'm
wouldn't
sorry,
exist?
Rancho. I gotta have a little bit of time to speak on my own fucking show. So this is kind of the puddle saying that the pothole formed to hold it, right? Saying, wow, it's incredible that this pothole just happens to be the exact size to hold me, the puddle. It's the right shape too, when in reality, the puddle went into the pothole and conformed to its shape. So life in this universe exists around those constants. Those constants were not put in place to make life possible. So that's why I would have to disagree with fine-tuning.
Wait, that's to beg the question, right? Because the question is, if the constants were different, would life exist? And you previously said, look, if the constants were different, we wouldn't be able to observe them because we wouldn't exist, because there would be no life. So do you agree that in, all the other logically possible worlds where the constants are radically different, that there would be no life in those worlds?
I think I need to clarify. There would not be the type of life that we currently know. That doesn't mean that there would be no life whatsoever.
Okay, and why do you think that there would be life when, the vast amount of experts in the field converge on saying that
I would disagree
there
with
wouldn't
that.
be life?
I would disagree. I would need you to give me evidence that the vast amount of experts say that there would be no sort of life possible.
Yeah, okay. So have you read, certain papers on fine-tuning?
On fine-tuning as like a theological concept? No, I study more like scientific approaches to the universe and origins of life on Earth.
Okay, so you're unfamiliar with the fact that you're like unfamiliar with what like the leading experts on this topic converge on with
Well,
regards
experts
to.
in fine tuning are not the experts in biology. You said the experts in biology. So
Okay, I'm
referring
just
to
saying the
like
experts in the relevant
theological
field.
arguments.
Wait, I'm not saying that biologists or physicists are the ones that are making the claims, right?
Yeah,
Those
they
would
wouldn't be the ones writing
philosophers.
the fine tuning papers. So
You
you're
think that the
asking.
people writing the fine-tuning papers are physicists?
I don't think they are. That's why what you asked makes no sense. So if I said I
Okay.
haven't read fine-tuning papers, that doesn't mean I haven't read up on the work of biologists and physicists. That means I haven't read up on fine-tuning papers.
Okay, so I'm saying in the fine-tuning literature, the reason why, the vast amount of arguments focus on the Bayesian probabilities, things like electrons and love, and not critiques such as, oh, well, we don't know XYZ, is because the vast amount of physicists, when approached with the question, converge on the opinion that if the constants were different, life would not be able to exist.
Life in its current form.
Life, however we define it, yeah.
No, that's not right. You're taking it a step further than physicists and biologists would actually say. So life in the state that we know it, in the form that we know it, likely wouldn't exist. It would exist in a different state if it existed at all. It is not a 0% chance that life would emerge if these constants were different. It is just likely that they would emerge in a different way. Think of it almost as like...
That's to beg the question, though. Wait, that's to beg the question, right? Because...
I beg you to be quiet for 20 seconds.
What? Okay, the question
You've yet
that
to
I'm
let
asking
me finish
you...
a fucking sentence, Rancho. Like, what the fuck?
Okay, can I speak now?
Bye. Next up. Sorry, I fucking hate the meta, like, may I speak? I don't need whiny men on my stream. Hey, how's it going? I can't hear you right now. All right. Hello?
Oh, sorry, I joined on accident.
No worries. Have a good one.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you now. Can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
I am Heinz Stridge. I was born in 2002. I'm 23.
Sorry, what was
about
that
to be
name?
24 and 4 days. Heinz Stridge. Just call me Nicodemus.
Oh, okay. And what pronouns should we use for you?
Well, I don't mind either pronouns you wanna use for me. Zers or neo pronouns. I'm cool with that too.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. So
do you have a religion?
Yeah, it's gonna be Christianity.
Gotcha. All right. Well, the Christian God's not real.
Yeah. What's the argument for that?
Yeah, I read the Bible and I'm like, this guy's not real.
Yeah, I'm asking you an argument for why the God of the Bible is false. You're just repeating the claim.
Oh, it's because he's like contradictory in nature, completely like inaccurate things that God claims. Like the Bible is full of contradictions, is full of inaccuracies. The God commits atrocities yet claims to be the subject of the basis of morality. Which just, that's kind of contradictory to be like, yes, I am the thing from which all goodness flows, and also I'm going to allow you to take little girls as sex slaves, right? So.
When you're implying contradiction, you're implying logic. What is the grounding for logic in your worldview?
Are we gonna do this bullshit? This fucking burden shifting glossary?
It's not a burden shifting. You're making the assertion of logic, and I need you to justify that assertion.
Can we agree on the laws of logic?
I need you to justify that.
We can agree on the laws of logic?
So you cannot justify the laws of logic?
Can we agree on the laws of logic, Nico?
we can agree on the laws of logic, but it's
Great.
different from justification.
Nope. We can agree on the laws of logic, so we don't have to go down this bullshit
No, we
semantics
have
route
to.
where you're
We
going to
have
distract
to.
from the entire
It's not
fucking conversation.
semantics.
Nope. It is semantics. We can agree on the laws of logic.
Don't run away. Don't run away.
I'm not running away. I'm not letting you overtalk me on my own
Justify
fucking
logic.
show. Nico, if you interrupt me again, you're
Justify
gone.
logic.
All right.
Run away.
It's not running away to not let you be obnoxious as fuck on my stream. Hello? I think it was running for you to act obnoxious just to try to get kicked so you could, like, cry victim. If we can agree on the laws of logic, we don't need to go into that bullshit like, well, what's your ontological grounding for logic? Because it is just a distraction from the actual argument. It is just because Christians cannot defend scripture, so they will try instead to shift the burden onto people who are not Christian to try to ground logic, which suggests that logic needs grounding rather than just observing it as brute fact of the universe and us having, like, concepts of logic that are the laws of logic. Those are intersubjective, and if we can agree on those, that is all that is necessary for the conversation to continue. I'm not going to let you pivot and obfuscate from the actual conversation. I've done it too many fucking times, so. Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing alright. Can I get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
I'm Danielle, of course, and I wouldn't be comfortable saying my age.
You above 18?
Well, yes.
Okay.
And I'm a girl.
Okay, so if chat were going to refer to you, would they call you a she, a he, a they, something else?
She and her.
Gotcha. Wonderful. Do you have a religion, Danielle?
Yes.
What religion is that?
Christian.
All right. Christian God, not real.
Okay. I wouldn't say anything to force my religion on you, but I'm just trying to be nice. But if you say that to me, I could be, like, kind of disrespected.
Christian God, not real.
Say something else besides that.
God of Bible, not actual.
Well, for my beliefs, I think he's real.
Oh, damn. Well, you got me there.
So, do you have any beliefs, or are you atheist?
I'm an agnostic atheist.
Oh, okay.
Are you sure you're over 18?
Well, yes.
What year were you born?
Like, 2000.
Danielle. Danielle. Oh, a little off on that one. Tiny bit. Yeah, she really got me. Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
My name. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay. I will say, shout out YouTube. Right now we have more people on YouTube than we do on TikTok. I can't remember that happening before. So YouTube, thank you for holding down the fort. TikTok, I know I promised I would show more of the dress if I got 30k likes, so hold on, guest. I gotta show off this dress a little bit more. So, I'm gonna move my chair out of the way. So it's got all these, like, really pretty layers. I'm trying not to flash anyone. But it's got really pretty layers on the skirt. The corset can be moved around to the back, but you can also see my entire bra. Holy shit. So we're not going to do that. There we go. Look at that! And it's got these really pretty flowers. So... there you go. There's me showing off my body to the internet for attention. So, name, age, and pronouns?
My name is Mahmoud, and my age is 18, and my pronouns are he, him.
All right. You got a religion?
Yeah, I'm Shia.
Gotcha. Your God's not real.
And, okay, so basically what I would say is that, you know, I do believe, like, do you know what immaterial things are?
Yeah, it's the opposite of the stuff in Madonna's world.
Okay. So I believe that immaterial things cannot be grounded in a material mind. Do you agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Okay, so how could immaterial things be grounded in a material mind?
Because our consciousness is produced within our brains, so that would be material. And we can conceptualize things like love, justice, mercy, which would be immaterial. So we have immaterial concepts generated by the material brain.
Immaterial concepts generated? Okay. Dang. I got baked, bro. Have nothing else. Got baked. Dang. GG's.
All right.
All right. Have a good night, host.
You too. Is that a tally? Honestly, I appreciate the honesty rather than doubling down. Thank you. Hey, how's it going?
Oh shit. Yeah. What's up?
Hey. Can I get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
It's Ymir. I'm 19. I'm gonna do it thing, he, him. I really don't care. I'm gonna be so for real.
All right. You have a religion, Ymir?
I believe in the biblical God.
Gotcha. Well, the biblical God is not real.
Type shit. I guess I'll give the argument for it.
Okay.
I don't know what philosopher came up with the argument. I forgot, but I'm somewhat familiar with it. Are you aware with divine simplicity?
Yeah, someone was talking about it earlier.
Type shit. That's amazing. I think, okay, from a, not just like a religious standpoint, but from a purely theistic standpoint, as in, I do believe there is some necessary ultimate supreme being that is the reason/cause of the universe. I think that if that exists, the biblical God seems to have the same attributes. Not attribute. That's a horrible thing to. They seem to correlate. A very similar description.
Leap, though. Even if you could prove intelligent design, that would not do anything in favor of Christianity specifically. So you would need to demonstrate to me why, even if there is a creator, why I should believe that it is the one you believe in.
I bet. So, well, what would you like? Okay, like for the sake of that's the main part. So, just for the grounding of the argument, you would agree that there is some higher being.
I would say in actuality, no, but for the purposes of the debate, just to skip over it, because I don't think that you could demonstrate Christianity is true, sure. I'll say, yeah, there is a God, not yours, those. So.
That's interesting. I was about to say, because
I'm an agnostic atheist. I don't think that there is a God.
You're an agnostic atheist. Well, you're an extreme atheist, because I was about to say, atheists usually just disagree with the fact that they're intelligent rather than...
Extreme!
Okay, type shit. Well, I guess not extreme since you're clearly agnostic, so regardless. But okay, for the sake of the argument, there is a supreme being. The supreme being is probably simple. I believe that the biblical God Yahweh, simply by the name and the slight descriptions that he does have, I think that the Bible probably intends for Yahweh to be this being that is simple in nature. So, like for example, Yahweh.
Okay, but if the Bible intends, hold on, sorry, the Bible intending it doesn't make it true. If we consider the Bible to be a work of fiction, it doesn't matter what the Bible intends.
Well, if you think it's then that needs justification. But I can try to prove it. I mean, I'd say that it's probably true, considering if this thing exists and this Bible accurately describes it, then it correlates to reality. So I guess that's like that increases the probability of it. But
I would have to disagree because there are things like historical fiction, like the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter books. Is it a series? I know there's at least one, but they do describe actual historical figures, actual historical places, but they also have Abe Lincoln fighting vampires. So because they mention actual historical events and people, does that make it more likely to be true that Abe Lincoln fought vampires?
Not necessarily, no, but I think it's a little different. I'm saying it's more likely indexed to like your beliefs, because I mean I've been the prime one talking. You haven't really given any like as far as like justification.
Well, I lack a belief. I'm the one with the null hypothesis here.
Right, and until then, like even if you're on a negation, like you're still asserting something. But
I'm not asserting the negation. In the case of your God, I am. In the case of God in general, I'm not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. Like, you're saying it's true that he doesn't exist. That's an assertion. But
yeah,
regardless
the biblical God definitely doesn't exist. We can just look at the claims of the Bible, like how God claims to be all good, claims to be perfect and loving, yet committed countless atrocities against his own creation in the Bible.
I guess depending on how you define love / good or merciful, because within the Bible at least, love and good are very well defined and very well described. And if you take the very humane material understanding of love, then I can see why you would be confused. But
yeah, is it loving to have little girls taken into sexual slavery?
Probably not. But I don't think that that's something God condones.
Might want to read Numbers 31. Is it loving to just condone slavery in general?
Probably not.
Okay, then you might want to read Leviticus 25 and Exodus 21. Is it loving to say that women should be burned alive if they have sex before marriage?
I don't think it's a rather thing of loving. I think it's a thing of justice and law.
So
within the Bible.
Sorry, is it just to burn a woman alive for having sex before marriage?
Well, premarital sex would be a sin, and the wages of sin would be death.
So that means that anyone who sins should be put to death immediately?
It doesn't have to be immediately, but that is the consequence of it. The same way anyone within the United States, if
that's
they
the case,
committed any type
sorry, if you're saying the wages of sin is death, and so burning someone alive for sinning is okay, then that would mean that to be just, anytime someone sinned, we should burn them alive.
It's the Father / God who is supposed to be
and he gave this law.
enacting such.
He gave the law that if the daughter of a priest profanes herself through promiscuity, that she is to be burned in the fire. So, if we're trying to keep consistent, then anytime someone sins, because apparently sin is deserving of one of the most painful deaths imaginable, then we should be carrying out that execution on anyone who sins, if that's actually the reason for doing it. Or do you think it's because God saw this specific thing as a sin worthy of extreme punishment, not just because it is a sin, because we see plenty of other punishments that are like paying a fine if you commit a sin, or like doing something to rectify, like, you know, eye for an eye sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I don't.
It's not
really
always immediately set them on fire. So clearly it's not just because it was a sin.
No, that's strictly what. There's no like it's kind of a verbatim statement. There's no context that are like to be interpreted or to say that this is something else or there's this alternative or any more to it. If it is the case that the wages of sin would be death, then whatever punishment that God within the Bible seems to be the source of all morality, he decides whether what is just or what is right or what is good or what is evil.
So why is it that the wages of sin is death, yet some sins have different punishments than others within God's law?
Well, the process of it is irrelevant. It's the conclusion that matters. That's the consistency.
But not all sins require execution for punishment.
Okay.
So obviously,
I
it's
was
not
about
the
to say
case
about to say that within the Christianity mindset or view, grace is a thing, and you also have to seek out salvation. So you can
is
repent.
it graceful to burn a woman alive for having sex before marriage?
If the woman repents, then there's
so if she repents, then it's graceful to burn her. What?
No, I'm saying you didn't listen to what I'm saying. That there's a way out, which would be the grace / repentance, baptism, and having faith in the Mashiach. But
that wouldn't save her. This was Old Testament.
What?
This is an Old Testament law. There's not an option to be baptized and get out of punishment. If you commit this act, you receive the punishment.
And animal sacrifices were a thing. You still had some form of grace back then.
No, you received the punishment.
Yes, that was the Aaronic. It's called the Aaronic priesthood. It's the whole thing with animal sacrifices. The priest would
have writings
put the goats
in
or the
which
sheep.
We have writings from the Sanhedrin where they carried out this punishment. Do you really think that someone would have
that
been
means she
burned?
had no way out.
Do you think she would have been burned alive if there was an option to not do that?
Sure. If the option was enacted in the first place, if it wasn't, then there's no way out.
So there's not always a way out. So it's a shitty law.
Well, you can say that, but you're strictly talking about the Old Testament here. I'm saying that the grace that they were offered or that they were given index to the law would be animal sacrifices. The priest would take the blood of the sheep and spray it on the altar, and their sins would be forgiven by virtue of the Aaronic priesthood. I'm saying if such thing is enacted, then the sin is forgiven. But if it isn't, as in this does not happen, and she was not given the grace because maybe she doesn't have access to a priest, which would be a good example. She's cooked.
She's the daughter of a priest. This punishment is specifically for daughters of priests, so she would have had access to a priest. That would have been her father.
Hold on. You are aware that when it comes to premarital marriage, as a very bad sin, especially considering fornication, that applies to both men and women.
That's not what Leviticus 21:9 says. Leviticus 21:9 says, if the daughter of a priest profanes herself through promiscuity, she is to be burned in the fire.
Why does that? Okay, then how does that necessitate that she has to have this consequence enacted? Not consequence. Why is it the case that this has to happen for her?
It's a law given by God.
Right, and the law. If this is in reference to ancient Israel.
So you're saying that God gave all these laws and punishments, but no one actually did the punishments, they just made a sacrifice instead? That's quite literally what happens throughout the Old and New Testament, or primarily the Old Testament, because the animal sacrifices were abused. You can simply have an animal sacrifice and be forgiven for whatever sin you committed, but there's no actual change in heart. That's why you have to repent and genuinely want to be changed and be better as a person. You need to show me any evidence that people were just sacrificing animals in lieu of the punishment God specifically states for these certain sins.
I mean, sure, but can we steel man that point? Because there's something else I have to justify.
Your point that people made animal sacrifices to get out of being punished, as depicted in the law.
Yeah, I was about to say I would have to steel man that because I have to get the actual verse. But there is something I can justify without the verse.
So Steelman would be you depicting.
I'm just setting it aside for the second until I get the verse.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'd rather you go ahead and get the verse, and I'll talk to chat while you get the verse.
I mean, sure.
How we doing out there, chat? We doing good tonight? I see Rat Soup is back in chat. I will take this time to make another exciting announcement. We have named the goat, my friends. We have officially named the goat. This was a poll that lasted on the Discord. We had more than 50 people weigh in on our Discord server. So I am very excited to announce that our goat is officially gonna be Cy, spelled C-Y as in cyborg. It was a very close race. I think both Vincent Van Goat and Tibbsy were in second place by 1 vote. And Beep was a little bit further behind, but I loved all of them. So we have Cy the Robot Goat, an official name for our little buddy. So say hello to Cy, everybody. It's an exciting time. I'm very excited to finally have a name for the goat, because I know people have been asking and asking for me to name the goat. So it is exciting. You. What are the goat's pronouns? I'm gonna say any/all. I use a lot of different pronouns for this goat. I think I've usually been calling Cy he, him, but I have sometimes used they, them. Cy does not care.
Okay. I got the
Yes.
I got the
Alright, what's the verse?
Alright, hold on, let me grab my Bible too. Because I am finna forget it. Where is my Bible? Hold on, I'm tripping. Okay, I found it.
Okay.
I know one is inside Amos. So, just to be clear, these aren't verbatim statements, but it's a set of statements that I have from multiple different verses that lead up to the point or support my conclusion. Just to.
Alright, what's the Amos verse?
Yeah, give me a sec. I can't.
"24 karat, excellent puns. Because with the robotic hoof, it's a cyclops.
You trying to? Okay, so we can before we go to actually we can start with Isaiah.
Okay, so not Amos, Isaiah.
Isaiah, some. Isaiah 1:11-17. I'm not even in the book of Isaiah. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I don't know how to read, so you gotta read it for me.
None of this says that they're making sacrifices instead of receiving punishment. It's just about making a bunch of empty sacrifices.
That's literally my point.
No, your point is that specifically they made sacrifices to get out of the prescribed punishments.
No. That is a point, but that is not my major point. I'm saying the whole point of it is that these animal sacrifices were practically abused. There was no change of heart. They could simply be forgiven for the sins because of what the law said. That's what leads up to.
But it doesn't say in the law that you can make a sacrifice instead of getting the punishment.
That is the whole purpose of the sacrifice, to be forgiven for your sins. It's the remission of sins.
It does not mean
you cannot have a remission of sins without blood. I can also get that verse if you want.
So there is a verse in which it says that if a man grapes a woman who is not yet engaged, he is to pay a fine to the father and then marry her. And that is the punishment. Are you saying that instead of paying the fine to her father and marrying her, he could sacrifice a goat and get out of it?
What?
So in Deuteronomy, God gives a law where if a man grapes a virgin who is not betrothed, he is supposed to pay a fine to the father. I think it's 50 shekels of silver. And he is to marry her and never divorce her. Are you saying that if he did not want to marry her or pay that fine, he could simply sacrifice a goat?
Bruh. Oh my goodness. Is that a punishment? Do you view that as a punishment?
It is the punishment for... yes. Paying a
Okay,
fine is a punishment.
Then it correlates to the argument. That would not have to go through if they sacrificed it.
So if they sacrificed a goat, then this woman would just be fucked?
Yes.
her father wouldn't get any money, there'd be no bride price, she is now just a victim of grape with no justice or retribution?
I mean, even if the sacrifice went through or it didn't went through, I'm not gonna lie, she would be like, it would be bad on both sides.
Yeah, it's
But
an awful
regardless of
law
that,
saying that a
I'm
woman
sorry.
has to marry a grapist. Like, if
Yeah,
that's
the
a horrible
punishment.
law in the first place. Well, the punishment is more paying the father all that money, because it's a property crime against the father. It's not a crime against the woman's agency, is the way it's depicted in the Bible. But like, how is that justice for the woman if he just gets to sacrifice a goat and get out of any responsibility for his actions?
I don't have an actual answer to that question, I'll be honest, but I can say that if it goes through, that it is a punishment, and the sacrifice does no means like actual benefit to the woman, nor does it do a real benefit to the father, but it only has a benefit to the person who did the sin in the first place, then it's not good. I was
How
about to
would
say
it?
then
How would
it's
that
kind of
possibly
meaningless.
benefit the woman?
I'm saying it doesn't.
Right. So your argument that they would do that instead of fulfilling the punishment as described in the law makes no sense.
What doesn't make sense about it?
The thing we just described, how that does nothing to benefit the woman or the father who is the victim of a property crime in this case.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. Maybe I need to like repeat the point. Or I'm just not being clear. I think you're missing it. I'm gonna be so honest.
Well, your point is incoherent. It's that God makes these
It might be
laws, and he
incoherent to you.
specifically tells you the punishments that you get if you break these laws. And a lot of the punishments are like supposed to bring around some sort of justice, particularly to ones that like have victims of the crime, right? So you're saying instead of that, instead of the victims getting justice, you can just cut the throat of a sheep. That makes no sense. Why would God outline these punishments? Why would people be able to get rid of responsibility for their actions by making a sacrifice? Because essentially then it comes down to just, if you're wealthy enough, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Because if you have access to enough animals to sacrifice, like, why would God set that system up?
Because when it comes to sin, the remission of sin has to be blood.
No, it doesn't. God decided that.
No, it does. If it is the
Okay.
case that God is omniscient, he knows every possible outcome or every possible result of whatever the case may be. And if that's the case, he knows which one is the best. And
If God is
if
all
the
powerful,
descriptions
he
of
can
God
change
are
it.
true, then I said possible. I'm saying all possible outcomes. So there's no real change.
Yeah, if he's all powerful, there is an infinite number of possible outcomes. He could do whatever he wanted. Sin would not have to be paid in blood. Sin could be paid by literally a single penny if God decided
Why
it,
would
because
that-
he is all powerful.
Okay, what is the argument for why would that be better? Why would that be better?
Why would that be better? Because it would reduce the amount of suffering.
Why would that be
Needless
better?
suffering.
But suffering clearly has to be necessary if Christ is the thing.
It does not have to be necessary if God is all powerful. There is nothing necessary for an all powerful being.
But he's also omniscient. That's also being presupposed here. Why would an omniscient, why would an omniscient, all good, all powerful being choose something that is probably less convenient, not less convenient, but less, how would I say, what is the best word?
It's almost like it doesn't make sense, and it's a contradictory thing for a supposedly all-loving
even a
God to deliberately choose a path that instills more suffering when he didn't have
I didn't
to.
say all. I didn't say all loving. I said all good.
Is he all-loving?
I think he's loving, but whether or not he's all loving, that's something I even somewhat disagree with.
Okay, well, I would say all good even. Why would an all good God intentionally choose the path of increased suffering?
Well, because suffering seems to be the main thing that allows for good to happen in the world, at least within the Bible. I was about to say, through the suffering of Christ,
That makes
allows for
literally no
eternal
sense.
grace. I mean, through the suffering of Christ,
Which is also unnecessary.
What?
Could have just given
Well,
us
we'll
grace
give it-
without the suffering.
What is the argument for that?
Yeah, he's all powerful, so he could have just given us grace without Christ having to suffer.
But he's omniscient.
He's all powerful, so there's nothing that constrains him.
Yeah, it is true. But if he's all powerful, then he can do anything logically possible, right?
Right. So he could have forgiven our sins without having to have Christ suffer.
Is there an infinite amount of the best outcome within all possible worlds?
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yes.
Okay, so what?
God is all powerful.
Then I'm not gonna lie, bro. You literally just conceded. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Or you even could just concede, but you kind of just contradicted yourself because why would you say that? If there's an infinite amount of possible worlds in which God can enact whichever one he desires, so, but it's within his nature that he is all good, and in every possible world, all possible worlds are all equally beneficial to him and his creations. Then what are we arguing?
I didn't say they're
about?
all
What is
equally
the
beneficial to his creations.
No, I'm saying, but
I
you
think
said
the world with the least amount of suffering, with no suffering, would be most beneficial to the creations. I think intentionally choosing a path that causes more suffering to creation is less beneficial. So I don't think they're equally beneficial. I think God deliberately choosing a path that increases suffering is in opposition to the idea that God is all good.
Okay, but we're talking about an infinite set of possibilities here, and you have a finite mind.
Right.
So.
Yeah, an infinite set of possibilities means that there is literally an infinite number of ways that he could have created the universe with no suffering whatsoever. And we could have still had free will. It could have still been his perfect creation, absolutely fine, no infringement on free will whatsoever, zero suffering.
But then the same thing applies to my position as well, because if it's an infinite set, then there's also an infinite set of beneficial ways that suffering could be here in the maximum convenience.
But because there is suffering, we know it's not the most beneficial because there is still suffering.
What?
Because we can observe suffering in our world, we know that the amount of suffering is greater than zero. Because there's an infinite number of possible worlds where the amount of suffering is zero, we know we're not in any one of those. So we're not in any of the scenarios where God chose to alleviate all suffering. We are instead in a possibility we're in a possible world with suffering. So that is a choice on God's part because he could have created this world without any suffering.
Then what would be the argument for suffering? Why would not having suffering be more beneficial?
Why would not having suffering be beneficial? Because suffering impedes on the ability of one to live their life to the best extent with well-being. We, as moral agents, we have a will, we have goals that we take actions to achieve, and suffering impedes on that will, impedes on our well-being.
Do you not consider sin, or do you not consider... Oh, my fault. Do you not consider law and sin, or just evil in general?
What?
And we'll
law and I don't understand what you mean by do I not consider law and sin.
Well, when I say law, well, not even strictly from the biblical perspective of law, but just order in general, having a set of rules that we have for the sake of people not doing fuck shit.
Yeah, but if there was no suffering, people wouldn't be doing any fuck shit because there wouldn't be suffering.
But you sit here and accept the fact that we're moral agents, and because we do what is convenient to us and what we want to do, suffering also allows for suffering. So
but God could have created us without the impulse to do anything.
Then that goes against your own position. Would you not want to be a moral agent?
No, it doesn't. You can still be a moral agent without certain impulse. You don't have an impulse to engage in every single type of behavior. Does that mean that you're not a moral agent?
Not necessarily, but that's not what I'm saying.
Do you have the impulse to take someone's life?
I'm saying if you have the lack of free will in the first place, the will to choose and decide what to do.
Do you personally have an impulse to take someone's life?
I just answered your question, bro.
No, you didn't.
Oh, do you want me to repeat myself?
You can say yes or no, sure.
I can say yes or no, but do
you personally have an impulse to take someone's life?
No.
Thank you. So you don't have that impulse. Does that mean that you're not a moral agent?
No, but that doesn't answer the question.
Being a moral agent doesn't mean that you must have the impulse to engage in every single behavior. To remove an impulse from somebody does not make them not a moral agent and does not strip them of their free will. The same way that you not having a desire or an impulse to take someone's life doesn't mean that you are stripped of your free will or your agency.
That's not what I was saying. That's literally not what I was saying. I don't know
I'm
what
clarifying
was the
what
point
I
of the
was
question.
saying.
Right, but I'm saying what you're saying doesn't address what I was saying. What I'm saying is it's the fact that you yourself accept that we are moral agents and we have the free will to choose and decide what we want to do. It's
Which could
within our
still be
nature.
true if he took away the impulse to do anything that would cause suffering.
Then we wouldn't be able to do anything.
I just
in our free
demonstrated.
will.
We can't do anything? You think every single action that we take causes suffering?
No,
So clearly we would have things that we're still able to do.
that's not. Oh my goodness. Yes, you have things that you are able to do, right? But I'm saying you would be taking the impulse which is within your nature. He would be taking that away, and thus you would not be able to enact a lot of things you are currently able to do now, or just in
Okay,
general.
so again, not having every single impulse does not mean that you are not a moral agent or that you're stripped of your free will. You do not have the impulse to take someone's life. That does not mean that you are not a moral agent.
And okay, so I have a question then, because maybe I'm just not understanding.
Okay.
How would I put this? Okay, hypothetically, right? We're all moral agents. Personally, I'm a theist, you're an atheist. So our morality are grounded in two separate things. I would assume your morality is based off the way you were risen, like the way you are, like the experiences you have, the conditions you've lived in your environment. Right? Am I wrong? Or
Well, I was raised Christian, and I don't believe in Christianity, so...
that doesn't...
Because I think that, like, slavery is bad, so no, I'm not in the line with Christian morality.
That's not... Okay, but that environment, those conditions, and those experiences are what made you what you are currently. Because you view them
By rejecting them,
as
sure,
bad.
if you want to view it
what I'm
that
saying.
way.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's the mindset that you have. And thus, that's what you ground your morality in.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
saying
you can only have
because of
morals
this-
based on things you're exposed to. Yeah, you can't have morals.
Exactly. And whatever makes sense to you is what you go with. Unless you simply just don't question shit. Now,
That'd be
let's say
silly,
me.
right? To just accept things without questioning.
I mean, yeah, like what the fuck that dogmatic shit. But anyway, someone who was risen in the Bible and accept a lot of the laws that they have and a lot of traditions and et cetera, all that shit. If you do not have the impulses that you have now, you were not created the way you are now, generally speaking. How would you be able to ground such morality?
I would just have a different morality, and I would ground it through that life.
Okay, so you would be grounded.
Like, everyone's morality is going to be slightly different because of their experiences. So if I lived a different life, yeah, I probably would have different morality. But I can back up my morality with evidence, with reason. I don't really know why we're pivoting to this, though.
It's not even pivoting. It's kind of the main point we're on currently.
The main point of the pivot that we've gotten to.
Okay.
Because we were talking about God's law, and
which
how...
is exactly what I'm talking about. I was about to say, if without such impulses, the way you would put it, without that part of nature, then you would be grounded within God's law. So
hold on. So if God makes these laws telling us not to do certain things, how is that not impeding on our free will?
What do you
Doesn't
mean?
that dissuade us? If God makes laws to dissuade us from engaging in certain behaviors and offers punishment when we engage in those behaviors, isn't that infringing on our free will by creating consequences that weren't previously there for certain actions?
If I tell you to blink and the consequence of you blinking is you be unalive right then and there, am I impeding on your free will?
Yeah.
But you literally just blinked and that didn't happen.
Right, but God would actually have the power to go through with it.
Right, but he doesn't. So now
he did many times in the Bible. So if God makes this law saying you're not allowed to do this thing, yeah, that is restricting people's free will.
But is it bad? Is that necessarily bad?
Well, okay, so now you don't think that restricting free will is bad? Are you going to backtrack on that entire argument you just made and in favor of why God had to allow suffering to allow free will?
How am I backtracking?
Well, because if you don't actually hold free will to be that important, then there's no reason that we should have suffering.
I was arguing based off your own presupposition. You're the one who brought up free will in the first place. You're the one who's kind of pivoting here. I don't know what you're talking about. The only main point that I have brought up is the fact that suffering is probably necessary due to the fact that suffering seems to allow for genuine eternal good to be the case via Christ.
But it's not necessary because God could have done it in infinite number of other ways.
Then we're just circling back.
Yeah, I agree. It's just.
Oh, what is a new response like?
It's interesting that you're saying now that like, oh, it's fine that God infringed upon their free will, but it wouldn't be fine for God. It's fine for God to infringe upon their free will to punish them and inflict suffering, but not to take suffering away, and that's God's goodness on display.
No. You're so confused. Now,
I
when
am
we say,
actually, because you're saying this God is all good. So he couldn't infringe on free will to get rid of suffering, but he could infringe on free will to cause additional suffering.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I have a question. Maybe if I put you through a hypothetical, you understand. Are you a mother?
No, thank goodness.
Oh, about it. Okay, that's cool. This economy is crazy. So, let's say hypothetically, someone or you or me, we are a mother. We have a son, some type of child, bro. I don't give shit. A robot goat. Our kid is robot goat.
This
No,
is
not ours,
Psy.
but we have a kid as a robot goat. Right.
No, hold on. You just said the economy, all right?
Right. Lil bro is a robot goat. Someone's trying to slime him out, bro. Like he's gonna be gone. It is within his nature to freely decide what he wants to do. And for some reason, bro woke up and decided, yeah, I wanna unalive this person. Okay. And that person just so happens to be our son. And it is within our free will to defend that dude, right? We would be impeding on
to defend the dude who's trying to kill our child?
No, our child, bro.
You should have done your chores, little baby goat.
I'm saying that it is within our benefit, our free will, our desire to defend our child from the bad guy.
Not really analogous.
It kind of is. So if
really
it's within our free will to do so, we're using our free will to decide to impede on that person's free will. Now, the way of defending him would be to punch him and sock him out. He gets hurt, which is a form of suffering, that is physical suffering. But by virtue of us punching him and knocking him out, he suffers, but a life is not lost.
Sorry, you're voted off the island by Mateo. W's to Mateo. Yeah, I was getting tired of that too. And don't bring the robot goat into this. I need to read some super chats that I've waited way too long. We have Gentleman Viking who said, "That witch!" Which I'm guessing is me. Or maybe Noah's Lions who made my dress. And then, oh god, I'm gonna fuck this up again. At not a space bat named Zarthulu 5569 said, "Ask Bible believers if they think animals can talk." Yeah, they got those talking donkeys and talking snakes. All right. Let's see. I want to take one other guest, but if it starts up a conversation, I'm probably gonna say that's my last one for the night, because it is getting late. It has been 2.5 hours, and I forgot to eat dinner. So I'm probably gonna do that. Sounded like Lucy Darling for a second there. I'm probably going to do that. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey, can I get your name, age, and pronouns?
Name is K-Pops.
Alright.
I don't remember how old I am. 34, and I'm a dude, he, him.
All right. Do you have a religion?
I do, but I mean, I wanted to and we can certainly talk about the religion. I'm Muslim, religion Islam, but I actually kind of wanted to ask you a couple questions about your agnostic atheism.
not really the point of the stream, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, I mean, it'll get on point with my God being real.
Gotcha.
and
I gotta do my best like interview pose. Hold on, I just got it. Ready?
Yeah. Okay. Oh. So we're starting. Gotcha. Yeah. I guess I just wanted to understand first, like, where you're at in your understanding of like the origins of existence and the universe and the present moment. Do you believe in like infinite regress and or do you believe that there was like a prime mover, uncaused cause for all subsequent, like, yeah.
Thank you for asking that question. So I would say that I believe in an eternal universe. I think that it is logically contradictory for there to be a start to time. So I would say that I hold to the universe being eternal rather than having some sort of creation event or prime mover.
So I believe that it makes perfect sense that there's an eternal grounder of reality, but it can't make sense that there's an eternal universe. I mean, aside from the fact that we know that the universe is 13.7, or maybe it's 14 now, I can't remember what scientists say these days, billion years old.
That's not correct.
Yeah, I mean, the Big Bang Theory,
it's not the beginning, I fear.
Well, no, I agree with that. But
yeah,
what caused the Big Bang and what caused that?
Yeah, so the Big Bang Theory is not the start of the universe.
So what is the thing that caused the Big Bang? And if you have an answer to that, what caused that thing to cause the Big Bang? It can't just be like a mechanistic, like,
it could be an
non-agent being. But infinite regresses are literally impossible. It's a logical impossibility for an infinite number of things to have happened in order to cause the present moment, because you can't have a chain with an infinite number of chain links and just pick one and say, this is where we are right now, this is our moment, because an infinite amount of time would have had to pass for all those actions to occur to get us to the present time. It would be impossible to have a chain with an infinite number of links. There has to be a first link to then begin to count all subsequent links, and that first link is the prime link, or in our reality, it'd be the prime mover.
So if you establish a starting point, for instance, if you have a number line, you can set 0 on that number line and there will still be an infinite amount of numbers in either direction, but you'd still be able to establish like certain values to those numbers based on where they are in relation to that arbitrary starting point. So I wouldn't say that there's like an absolute start to that chain of events, but I would say that we establish a starting point that we use as a point of reference for deciding where we are in the existence of the universe.
Okay, sure. I strongly disagree, because let me just pose it in one more metaphor, and after that we can agree to disagree. But if I were waiting to press a button, and I wasn't allowed to press the button until I was given permission by my boss, and my boss wasn't allowed to give me permission until he was told by his boss that, yeah, like, it's okay, you can tell K-Pops to press the button. And if he had a boss that he was waiting for, and he had a boss that was, if there was an infinite number of bosses that were like infinitely regressing, there would be no first boss to then begin the chain reaction of telling all subsequent bosses to say, like, finally, I couldn't get to the point where I ever get to press the button. There would be an infinite number of people and an infinite amount of time that it would take. And by infinite, I don't mean the kind of infinite that we can't quite grasp the number. It's not finite. I mean like the infinite in the sense of the forever. It would take a forever.
But if you selected one boss in that chain to be your arbitrary starting point, and that boss was then given permission.
Okay, but that's not how reality works.
Then we're measuring it in a finite space rather than an infinite space. So our conception of it is going to be finite. So we're not establishing that there is some sort of like us saying, okay, we're going to start measuring existence based off of here. Is not like us saying that's the only amount of time the universe has existed. It's just us using that starting point. So when we talk about the Big Bang Theory and people say that like the universe is, 13.8 billion years old, it's at least that old. It's just that our math kind of breaks down prior to that. So we've established the Big Bang as that starting point with which to measure our universe because all of our models break down prior to that. So that is the equivalent of one of the bosses in the line being told, okay, you can start the chain now.
Okay, but I think the Big Bang is actually a good reference point to say, like, that was a moment in time that something happened, but that couldn't have been a mechanistic, like, just non-agentful action. There had to have been somewhere, and even if it wasn't immediately caused by God, it was caused by something that was caused by something that was caused by something, and then you get the infinite regress. Eventually, something had to set off that chain reaction to get to the point. I take the Hawkins razor account, where you just cut out all the middlemen, and because all of the middlemen are unimportant. Sorry, I did butcher that. Occam's razor, yes. But if skipping out on all the middlemen, whether there is none between the Big Bang and what I consider God, or if there's an infinite number, but there, as in not the forever number, but the like very ungraspable number, whatever that number of movers is, causes and reactions and causes and reactions, and eventually getting to the thing that caused the Big Bang, there has to be something at the beginning of the chain. There is no such thing as an infinite chain with an infinite number of chain links.
Okay.
Something is the first point in the chain.
So what started the chain that led up to your God existing?
Well, so that's where I agree with you, that there has to be an eternal reality, and that needs to be grounded by something. Something needs to be present for eternity to have existed. And I'm not saying that he never created other universes or other like worldly, like realities, or other heavens, and meaning like other universes. I'm not saying that he wasn't always a creator. But
what started the chain prior to your God existing?
Well, if he is who he is, if he is the one that initiated reality as we know it, then he is the one who is so powerful that he doesn't necessarily need to have been caused. In fact, he can't be caused. It's an impossibility for him to have been caused. If he was caused, then he's not the God that we're concerned with. He's not God at all. He's a created being.
Ditto, but universe.
No, it's. Sorry, say that again.
Same thing, but universe instead of God.
So, but the universe is not. The universe could not have created itself. That's an impossibility. The universe is not agentful. I didn't say that God created himself. God is
so it's not about something creating
being.
itself. So the universe is the necessary
we know that
entity.
the universe has an like a finite existence, that at a certain point the universe as we know it didn't exist. There was
you conflated two things change. There. Sorry, I'm just interview bit has gone on way too long.
Sure.
You conflated two different concepts there. You conflated there being a beginning of the universe period and a beginning of the universe as we know it. Those are two completely different things. Because like I said, our models break down prior to when we think the Big Bang occurred a little under 14 billion years ago. That does not mean that was an absolute beginning to the universe. So it's important to make the distinction.
Regardless, though.
It's important to make the distinction.
There had to have been a beginning chain, or a agentful, like willing, or a willful being who decided at that time that he was going to do something.
Even if there is even if you were to say that there was a first cause, which I still don't agree with, why would it have to be a being?
Oh, it would absolutely have to be a being, because if it wasn't, then why would it have done it at that time and not, some other time? Why would it have like instantiated reality and the universe at the moment that he did, instead of in an infinity number of years prior? Years not being
things happen to
but why
things
did
that
it
are
happen
not
when it
like
happened?
why does the wind blow at a certain time rather than a different time?
I mean,
There's not a
we can
being
certainly
controlling
know
the
why
wind.
that happened. That's scientific. That's all cause and reaction. I'm talking about
Yeah, but you're
something
implying
from
that
nothing.
for things to happen there must be a being behind it, and I don't agree with that.
No, absolutely. There can be things that happen that are due to a mechanistic, like cause. That is a possibility, but for that mechanism to have even existed is, the number of variables that would go into this mechanism, which who put it there first of all, but the number of variables that would have to go into it.
You presuppose someone had to put it there. I don't think there had to be a someone, even if there is a beginning, which again I don't agree that there was an absolute beginning, because I think it's
Okay,
logically
then
contradictory
this
for
thing,
time and energy
this
to
thing
have
that
begun
can pump
to
out
exist.
any possible universe, this mechanism that can pump out any possible universe, chose to do it at a certain time, and it didn't choose to do it 5 seconds prior or 5 seconds later.
That's what I keep trying to impress
It
upon you.
certainly is.
It's because you're presupposing that it's a being. It could just be that mechanistically things happened at a certain time. It does not mean that there was intent or a mind behind it.
I mean, anything mechanistic has a design purpose. It's a design thing. There's nothing mechanistic that isn't put in place. I mean, you have principles of like principles that govern our universe, such as like forces of nature.
And I don't think they were put in place by any entity.
I mean, okay, here, let's stop with this infinite regression thing. I have one more concept that I want to throw at you. Okay,
that wasn't even infinite regress.
It...
That was just against intelligent design specifically.
Well, I mean, I guess we can agree to disagree there. I don't think that it's possible that to have a mechanism that can pump out something such as the universe that decided to pump one out at a given point in time, if it wasn't prior programmed to do so. And then who's the programmer? Because that's God. Whoever or whatever the thing is that is the prime mover is God, by my definition.
Yeah, you're again presupposing that there has to be some intent behind it, which you've yet to demonstrate. You just say that there must be because you think there is.
No, I mean there's a very good reason to understand that something that's mechanistic cannot do something at any certain point in time. If there's an infinite amount of time, why would it have happened at that time? It makes sense to me. Maybe I'm not articulating it well at all, and I can digress on that point. But what about like the very moment that you're living in right now? You have the headset that's on your head, for example. Let's just start with something simple.
It hides my elf
That headset
ears.
is in that. Very nice. Okay, so your elf ears are in that position in space and time because you physically put them there. If you were to disappear, those would drop to the ground. All right, so they're grounded by you. You are what is holding them in their place, and
the
you are
chair's
in a
holding
place.
me, and the floor's holding the chair, and the building's holding the floor, and the ground's holding the building, and the earth is holding the
and
ground.
The forces of nature.
Yeah, you're just going to infinite regress again. You've done this demonstration with the boss thing already.
No, this isn't infinite regress. There has to be.
It's a chain of causality.
That is grounding the thing prior.
Yeah, its chain of causality gets to a first cause or an unmoved mover, etc. It's all the same
okay,
argument.
So this is
ultimately.
non-temporal though. This is grounding the active moment of reality. I believe that there has to be something at the beginning. That you cannot have an infinite regress of things that are supporting or grounding reality. There has to be something at the top that is letting all subsequent things be propped up. Just a thought experiment. It's something that's very
even if I were to
powerful
accept that it's
convincing.
true, I wouldn't have to believe it was God.
Well, but that is by my definition God. I mean,
that's by your definition.
We haven't
sure.
gotten into any. we haven't gotten into any religion yet or any dogma or theology. That's just the concept that there is something that made all subsequent things be the way that they are. And there was an initial movement that happened, or initial action that was taking place. Theology can bring into what the name of that God is, and how he instantiated creation by saying be, and it was, for example. Well, that's all and we can get into that next, but that's all something that first, I believe that before we even talk about my God and whether or not he's real, we need to have a general understanding of why I would even take the time to consider that there's a God. It's not just because I was born into a family
that, like with the last guy when he was like, "Can we just skip?" And I granted intelligent design, and he still couldn't prove Christianity, so I could have saved you a lot of time of.
So if you believe that there's a God, after those two arguments, and you accept that there's a prime mover and he's an agentful and willful being who does things on his own accord. Huh?
Color me convinced.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't be convinced, but I believe I did make solid arguments, and maybe that's something that you should ponder on. You've made actually take the time to reflect on that.
You made the same.
I mean, take the time to reflect on the fact that there couldn't be an infinite
compelling.
chain.
They haven't been compelling. I heard the exact same arguments you told me when I was in Bible class in high school, because we had mandatory Bible class and they taught us apologetics.
Okay.
And they taught us the exact same things, and he's still teaching those exact same things 10 years later on his fucking YouTube, because he has a YouTube channel where he does apologetics. It wasn't convincing then, and it's not convincing now.
Okay. Well, if there was a God, all right, let's go back to your agnostic, atheistic standpoint. If there was a God and he did create everything that is, and including you and all of mankind, I mean, I just think that it is incumbent upon each individual person to, if they can be convinced by such an argument, or at least moderately convinced, such that they would consider looking to see if this God really does exist. He would have had to have sent a sign or something if he expects anything of us, right? And so you would do your due diligence and just make sure that all the religions are false, and then you could go back to atheism, right? And so with doing that due diligence, I believe that if you take a close look at Islam, disregarding all of the media narratives that have been going on, especially for the past 26 years or 25 years, and you actually look at the theology of Islam and the way that
disregarding Aisha and 434 sort of thing, or
what's wrong with what's wrong with Aisha? That you do realize that people have been getting married at that age for millennia prior, and that it's only in our modernistic society that we have come to these new norms of what is marriageable, but
condemn having sex with a 9-year-old for me.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Condemn having sex with a 9-year-old.
I condemn the idea that any 9-year-old in this day and age is even remotely.
Hey, Pops. No. Condemn having sex with an. You do not need to add fucking qualifiers. Condemn having sex with a 9-year-old.
I started with the word I condemn with it.
Yeah, and then you added fucking qualifiers. Yeah, you shouldn't have to say that. Any day and age.
Wait, so you're condemning then? You're condemning then all of every millennia of human history up until about the maybe early 1900s.
I condemn anyone who raped children. Yes.
No, it wasn't grape though. It was marriage.
It was
a valid marriage.
Children are incapable of consenting to sex. You made me have this. We've been here for.
But she wasn't a child though.
She was back then 6 when they met.
She was 6 when the marriage contract was established.
So she's not a child when she's fucking 6 years old?
No, when she's 6 years old, because people are promised to their husband. They don't go and have many boyfriends and girlfriends for many years and fuck around and
you wasted 20 fucking minutes of my life to simp for pedophiles?
That's a disgusting and gross whatever.
Yeah, it fucking is K-pops that you're like, well, it's fine that they grape children because it was back then. It was the olden
first
days.
Of all, there was,
it was the. It was
excuse
back
me.
then.
First of all, hey, I was keeping it extremely respectful prior to this. First of all, there
It's
was
not respectful
no
to defend graping
happening.
children.
No, I agree. There's no grape that's ever acceptable.
Can
Grape is
children consent to
unacceptable,
having
but
sex?
Children, no. But Aisha was not a child when she was actually bewetted. She was
9.
Affianced, right? And people were having their periods and getting married for hundreds and thousands of years prior to that. At that age, as soon as they became of reproductive age, where they've hit puberty, they were instantly married. It was considered, in fact, even a couple...
I'm gonna mute you because it's disgusting. Nowadays, if someone has hit puberty, is it acceptable to have sex with them?
I was muted.
Yes, you were. Answer the question. If someone has hit puberty nowadays, is it acceptable to have sex with them?
No, you shouldn't be having sex with somebody just because they hit puberty. That's not what I'm saying.
Why not?
First condition is that you're married to them, and second condition is that they are physically and mentally mature enough to handle, household responsibilities, relationship responsibilities, and that was the case back then, and it's not the case now. It's very much not the case. I mean, people are babied until they're in their 30s. I have friends that are my age, and I'm 34, that are still playing video games in their mom's basement. People are not adults anymore.
I'm gonna mute you, but I'm not gonna kick you just yet because I want to make sure that you're here for this. You're a fucking sick individual. You are advocating for child rapists right now, by making any excuses at any point in time for people to marry and have sex with children. You are a child grape apologist, and if this is what your religion leads you to believe, I appreciate you being a wonderful demonstration for every fucking person in here as to what not to do, so that there will be fewer pieces of shit like you who are willing to defend child grape. There should never, under any fucking circumstances, be a time in which you add a qualifier to condemning graping children. Now that I know you have gotten to hear me explain to you how shitty of a person you are, have an evening. So, almost lost my cool there. Gross. Sorry, just like all that to, like, that's how you're gonna land the plane? If that's how you're, I'm not gonna. That was really shitty, K-pop. Sorry, I just feel upset that I was duped into actually, like, having a conversation with you for so long, because there is no fucking way I would have given you that much time if I knew that you were gonna defend graping children. Fuck all the way off. So, thank you all for being here. I know we did have some people just come in, and I am about to end the stream, but I have not had dinner yet, and it is now midnight. So I'm gonna go do that. One last little shout out to Noah's Lions for making this beautiful dress that I'm wearing. Again, you can find her Etsy in my link tree. You can also find the Discord in there where you can come in and hang out. Discord is where we do fun stuff, like where we did the naming poll for the goat, and where I shared the video of my traumatizing camp experience. Not of mine, but of people doing the same thing. So if you want to see the video from the insane camp thing I talked about last night, it's in the Discord server. Oh, thank you, Krovis, for muting K-Pops, because now I can see his profile and block him. No fucking child grape apologist on my live. Beat it, bitch. So, go check out Noah's Lions, aka First Aid Fashion, on Etsy. link in my link tree. Come join the Discord. And this is Psy the Goat. I think that's the important things for tonight. I did just get restricted for bullying. Fucking worth it! Oh, is Mezzo live? Oh, good, Mezzo's live. You're gonna get the same dress as me? Well, mine's custom made, so. Yeah, let's go say hey to Mezzo. I think at this point they're so used to me saying like crazy shit or having people say crazy shit that genuinely just coming in and saying it's a robot goat raid, they probably won't believe it. So we're gonna do that. We're just gonna go in, we're gonna tell them it's a robot goat raid, and they're not gonna believe it. Joke's gonna be on them. All right, motherfuckers. TikTok, you know you're the first to go. Mwah. Thank you for bearing with me while in my goopy faced state. Bye. And YouTube, you kicked ass tonight. Oh my goodness. For a lot of the stream, I had more viewers on YouTube than on TikTok. And I had like a fraction of the followers, which means some of y'all weren't subbed. I'll only cry myself to sleep about that a little bit tonight, though it's okay. Big thanks to mods over on YouTube, kicking ass as always. Boogie and Agnostic, you guys run a tight ship, and I very much appreciate it. I will see you guys again on Sunday, where I'll be stopping by Mezzo's for some ass, and then maybe some ass for ass if I'm feeling up to it. Have a lovely evening. Bye.